Good evening and welcome to another edition of Not Your Ordinary Sports Show. I am Robert Henslee, joined as always by the Texans starting right tackle and maybe new protector of the blind side, Eric Winston. We'll get into that in just a minute. Our guests here joining us for this Monday night football game between the Vikings and the Packers, starting on my far left, ladies first. Texans blogger for the Cron.com website, Steph Stradley, a longtime Texans fan, in fact,
Yes.
a one-time fan of the year.
Yes.
Correct? So we're glad to have you along. We're going to get
Thank
your
you.
thoughts on the Texans in just a sec. On my near right from BMC Software, that is, Dan DiArmond. How are you, Dan? Thanks
Doing
for
great.
coming in. And,
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you sitting in here. Maybe you can teach these guys and gals a little thing about the software business.
Yeah, that'd be a bad thing.
We're going to talk about your involvement in politics as well along
right.
the way. And 12-year NFL veteran, veteran of the Eagles, Redskins, and Texans, ND Kalu.
Some say I was just a fan also, so, you know, both of us have something in common.
There you go.
We've got quite the collection here tonight for this game as the Packers try to stay unbeaten going up against Christian Ponder and the Vikes coming off the bye week. Before we get to the game itself, the big news today coming out of Houston, national news story, Matt Schaub has a significant foot injury, is out for an indefinite period. Eric, what does this mean for the Texans? The 7-3 Texans, everything was lining up just right this year. And now you're looking at Matt Schaub as a question mark for the rest of the season.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious it's not how you draw it out, but it is what it is. And the train's got to stay on the tracks, and we got to do everything we can to keep it there. So Leinert's going to come in. He's going to play great. He's going to do what he's been doing in practices and the time he's been able to get out there, whether it's preseason games or this past game. He's going to lead the offense, and the defense is going to continue to play well, and we're going to support around him, and he's going to make the plays. So I've got all the faith in the world in him. I think the rest of the team does too, but obviously it's always a tough blow when you lose your quarterback.
The offense, Gary Kubiak's offense has always been designed sort of as a replaceable parts thing, right? A guy gets hurt or is not available to play, you can plug somebody right in. Does that work the same way for the quarterback spot, though?
Well, I wouldn't say it's replaceable. I think we have an identity, and I think we have an offense, and we stick to it. And I think that's why you have the ability to plug players in at receiver, at anywhere, at offensive line, fullback, running back, and we'll see about it at quarterback. Obviously, Matt hasn't missed a lot of games in the last 3 or 4 years, so it's going to be a little different. But at the same time, Leinert's on the team for a reason. He's on the roster for a reason, and we think he can play. And we're going to definitely see that coming up.
What do you think, ND? Are the Texans sunk without Matt Schaub?
No, not at all. I've been talking about, on the show we do on SportsRadio 610 that even with the injury to Matt Schaub, I still have the same expectations. I still expect this team to go to the playoffs, to go deep in it, because when you're looking at the Houston Texans of the 2011 season, you have the best offensive line in the NFL, you have the best running back tandem in the NFL, and you have the #1 ranked defense. So I understand losing your quarterback is a huge blow, but if Matt Leinart, who I think never really got a fair shake in Arizona, you don't draft somebody first round and not allow him to start 2 or 3 seasons before you deem him not good enough. But that's another story for another day.
Tell that to the Broncos.
That's another story for another day. But my expectations, my goals for my old team, for his current team, is still deep into the playoffs because it's a good team right now, and all he has to do is be a good manager. I'm sure he doesn't want to hear that from me. He feels he could be better than a manager at the quarterback position. But if he could just make sure he keeps the turnovers down, throw those quote-unquote easy passes, I expect them to still reel off the 5 or 6 more wins before they go into the playoffs.
Steph, as sort of the fans representative here, we know you're more than just a fan, but
Right.
Texans fans have to be thinking, man, this is the year, everything's going right, and then this happens. How big of a how much does it take the wind out of the sails of the Texans?
Yeah, I
fans?
mean, it's hard not to think that the Texans have a bit of a whammy on them, after losing Andre for part of the season, losing Mario Williams for the entire year, and now what looks to, losing Matt Schaub. He's been out before, and, people kind of dog the Texans to some degree in a way I think is unfair. It's like, oh, you have a systems offense, you have a system quarterback, you have system running backs, you have system offensive line. Well, at some point, if you're going to be a successful team, you have to have a system and a philosophy that makes sense, and you plug people in that fit what you're doing. But then if you have special players, you do the things that suit what they do best and take away from the things that they don't do so well. And so, I mean, in the past, Schaub has missed some games. During that time, the offense still ran, and that was at a time where the running game wasn't very good, and the defense, to be polite about it, was atrocious. So so I mean, they were able to have an offense move. Now the big question is, okay, is the defense going to look as good when maybe you're playing some more difficult offenses? When if the offense maybe has, you know, more 3 and outs, you know, will the offense continue to be able to take some of the time? Because if you look at the defense right now, time of possession, they have about the least amount of time of possession. Part of that is the offense, but then part of it is they're forcing punts.
They are. The defense working well. From a basic standpoint, Eric, my big question is, you switch from a right-handed quarterback to a left-handed quarterback. How much of that is an issue? Now you're suddenly blocking for the blind side with the left-handed quarterback in there, and it seems like the offense maybe runs a little differently too.
Yeah, I think that's been sensationalized a little bit. You know, oh, you got the blind side now. You know, they still rush the same way. They still do. I still got to set the same way, and things won't change from that. You know, you might see, obviously, since he's a lefty, you're probably going to see things that benefit a lefty. You might roll him left a little bit more, so he's in a quicker throwing position. But just yesterday, you know, we rolled Matt, I guess, left too, you know, and he threw across his body. So they're going to do a lot of different things. You might see some play actions more to the left and sometimes to the right because it sets them up better. It'll be interesting to see how they go with that. I can't remember a left-handed quarterback ever in Denver. I guess you have to go back to Steve Young. Steve Young. So you know it does flip things, I guess, for you in a sense. But at the same time, the playbook's not going to change. The protections, how we block the protections, don't change, and how we pick everything up doesn't change. So and the routes won't change. So from that standpoint, I think sometimes it's made out to be a little bit more than it really is.
Matt Leinart hasn't started but one game in the last 4 years. Do you feel like he got a fair shake in Arizona? And I guess, how do you gauge whether he's a better quarterback than he was there?
Yeah, you know, I always looked at it from you know, I didn't really know him. I met him a few times in college, but you look at it from that vantage point, and like Indy said, you know, you draft the guy 10th overall, 11th overall, wherever it was, you start him for a year, then a new head coach comes in and decides that's not his guy. You know, and it's kind of, it makes you wonder, but it is what it is. And I know Matt would say the same thing. It is what it is out there. He learned a lot. And, you know, now he's here. And I know this. The guy won a Heisman Trophy at USC. He had to do something right. He's got a lot of physical skills. I see him around the practice all the time. And he puts a lot of crisp, a lot of good throws together in practice. Running the scout team or whether he's getting a couple of reps with the ones, he treats them all seriously. And I know that, like I said, everyone's panicking right now. Everyone's thinking for some reason the season's over. But like Steph said, we've got a great defense. They're playing unbelievable. Our running game's working well. And I know that line is going to be able to do some things in our pass game, and obviously with AD coming back, or looks like he's coming back, that's not going to hurt anything either. Yeah,
the bye week coming at a good time. It actually gives Matt Leinart a chance, an extra week, to get ready to step into that starter's role and hold it down as long as Schaub is out. The Texans, certainly a national story. Tonight, though, more immediate story, the Packers and the Vikings. Eric, what do you see from this game?
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting game. You know, they met about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was Christian Ponder's first start, and everybody kind of wrote him off. And then all of a sudden, you saw it late in the game, and it was really tight. And the Packers had to run the clock out to win it. I think it'll be fun to see now what Christian Ponder can do in division at Lambeau Field at night. It's a big stage for him. This is the biggest stage he's played on yet. In Minnesota, I think he gives a certain amount of energy to Minnesota. I think he's mobile, so I think it opens up some backside holes for Adrian Peterson to hit. I think it's going to add a different dimension to their offense. They've always been led by their defense. Jared Allen's having one of the quietest years of any superstar I've ever seen. He has 12.5 sacks. If it wasn't for the crazy guy up in Dallas,
DeMarcus Ware,
doing all that stuff, I mean, that guy is unbelievable. You know, he would easily be leading the NFL. As it is, he's on pace for an unbelievable year. So, you know, they've got a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and they haven't been able to put it together the last few years. And then what do you say about the Green Bay Packers? You know, they've got it rolling. They've got it rolling right now, especially on offense. Aaron Rodgers is playing as good as any quarterback has ever played over a 9-game stretch, 8-game stretch. You know, but they're still searching for some things. Their defense has been giving up a lot more points than they did last year. You know, last year they were, a lot of people forget, they were, I think, number 2 in total defense last year. And that's something that, you know, you think of the Packers, they won a lot of games last year, 14-10, 9-0, 17-14. You know, this year they're winning a lot more shootouts, and their defense isn't playing as well. So they're winning differently. They're still winning, but there are some problems that they want to get fixed. I know Capers was out in the paper saying we got to play better, we got to do our part. And they want to keep that run game going to a certain amount. You know, they're going to throw it a lot, but they need that yards per average. That yards every time they hand it off, they need it up around 4 or 5 just to keep people off of them. Because if there's one knock on Green Bay's offense, if they spread you out, you can get after Rodgers. It throws off the timing. It throws off their offense, and things get tough for them. So this will be an interesting matchup. Jared Allen can go after that rookie or second-year guy at left tackle. I think things could get tight. Adrian Peterson establishes a run. We could have a fun ball game.
Yeah, we're hoping for a close one. Dan, do you have a rooting interest in this game? You going Packers or Vikings?
Well, I mean, the safe bet obviously is going with Green Bay, but you know we'll kind of see what happens. Yeah, there's a couple of LSU Tigers. We'll talk about that. That plays for the Packers. We're pulling for them, including the backup quarterback. But yeah, I think smart money for entertainment purposes only would be on Green Bay, of course.
I believe they're 12 or 14-point favorites,
yeah.
Heavy favorites in this game. We want you to be a part of the conversation tonight as well. You can send in questions via Twitter at Thebus TV. That's at the Bus TV. Our Twitter feed brought to you by Verizon, and we'll be checking in on the Twitter feed as the game goes on. We'll check in on commercial breaks throughout the game. And along the way as well, Eric will be sitting down one-on-one with our guest in the second, third, and fourth quarters. As we get underway here, the Packers trying to get the fans riled up as Ponder. It's one thing for Ponder to play well in Minnesota against the Packers, against the reigning Super Bowl champs. How much harder is it in Lambeau Field?
It's a lot different. I mean, it's Lambeau Field, and I think at night, all the lights are on you. You want to do good. I think the big thing for him is not to press it early on in this game and not to get sucked into some throws. I think Woodson especially him, does a great job of suckering young quarterbacks into making some bad throws and throwing into coverage where he can get it. He also can sneak and blitz very well too and knock a ball out that way. So I think for them, they need to keep it simple early, stay in this game, see where they're at, and keep feeding Adrian Peterson.
Indy, what do you think about what you've seen from Ponder so far this year?
You know what? I got a chance to do the color for the last preseason game, and the one thing that really stood out was his athleticism. I didn't realize he was that athletic. He was just fast. I mean, he was making a lot of plays happen with his feet. He was eluding a lot of sacks, a lot of pressure. After that game, I thought to myself that, you know what, Minnesota should be excited about their future at the quarterback position. It's a shame that my old teammate, a guy that I really respect, things just didn't seem to work out. Yeah, Donovan McNabb, things just didn't seem to work out for him, and I believe his time is done in the NFL. But for Minnesota, obviously this is a tough year for them, but they should be excited about their quarterback. I think he is going to be the quarterback of the future. And just to touch on what Eric was talking about with Jared Allen, what he's doing is amazing because he's playing for a losing team. When you see guys that put up those big sack numbers, when you talk about the two guys for the Indianapolis Colts, Dwight Freeney and Mathis, they're always playing against teams that were trying to catch up, so the quarterbacks were dropping back all the time. But you're talking about a losing team, and teams when they're playing Minnesota, third, fourth quarter, they're just handing the ball off. So for him to have 12.5 sacks already at this point, it just lets you know how amazing he is, his individual effort. He's just a great player.
And he didn't have like a 6-sack game or anything.
He
hasn't had like a 5 or some crazy game where he's gotten a third of his sacks. And here goes Williams right here.
Oh, there we go.
Running the opening punt back.
They hold him to a 3-and-out,
Yep.
and the Packers.
And he went for the 3.
Yeah. Was that a tribute to the NBA, which their season looks
All 3-point shot we're going to see this year. Maybe.
Cobb, right? Is that Cobb, right?
Randall Cobb,
yeah. He's amazing.
He's been
79 yards.
Yep.
He was a quarterback, right? Wasn't he a quarterback in college?
That I don't know.
Was he? I thought he was a small time. I might be wrong about that.
I'm not sure. I'm sure our crack research staff will be on Randall Cobb and his background.
And when you see this play, it just lets you know, that's not luck. That's obviously skill, team blocking, but you don't see
the cutback,
kickoff returns, punt returns for touchdowns every week. It just lets you know everything seems to be working right for the teams that are having a lot of success. Even with the Texans, they're hitting on all cylinders. Green Bay's hitting on all cylinders. Just like you said, Robert, they had a 3-and-out. They punt the ball away, and he takes it to the house. So that momentum that Minnesota was feeling is just gone.
Randall Cobb had a 108-yard kickoff return in the opening game for the Packers. I like how he had to take a couple steps back before he did the Lambeau leap. Still getting used to doing that.
Those fences are high.
Are they?
just joking.
They look, I mean,
Receiver from Kentucky, I think he was.
receiver.
Sorry,
SEC
SEC
guy,
homer.
huh?
Yeah, I think he
That's
was
why
receiver
you're
from
here, to
Kentucky.
keep us in line.
There you go, yeah.
SEC player.
And he played quarterback at Kentucky, according to our crack research staff.
There we go.
So, yeah,
go.
good call, Eric, with that. What about as the Packers? Well, the offense won't be on the field yet, but Aaron Rodgers. This is a guy who, even after the Super Bowl title last year, there was still sort of a debate. You know, does he belong with the Bradys and Mannings of the world, with the elite of the elite quarterbacks?
Was there?
Well, I mean,
I thought he answered the question, and I don't know, you're around to talk more than I am. I thought after the Super Bowl, everybody said, you know what, there's no more questions.
he's gone to that level. Okay, I'll
the
give you
next
that.
question is, if he wins this year, do you put Brett Favre behind Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, the thing I was going to bring up.
In Packer grades?
Is
Yes.
it now where?
That's a good point.
I mean, should we be asking, is Tom Brady, is a healthy Peyton Manning in the same class with Aaron Rodgers? I mean, this guy is playing as good as any quarterback I've ever
There's something
seen.
to be said for doing it for a long time.
Right.
There's
Yes.
something to be said for consistency, especially in this league. It's so hard. It's so hard to do anything, you know, whether it's staying healthy, whether it's just producing at that same level. And you see Tom Brady last year, they went 14-2. He had, 4 interceptions in the whole year, and he's got 10 already, I think, or something like that.
A lot of those off tip balls.
Well,
yeah,
you know,
not
it's
his
still
fault,
though, but that's the way it goes, and that's
Right.
what I'm saying. It doesn't matter whether it's
His
tip
agent?
balls,
Nobody plays him on TV.
quit trying to dumb down my points, Rob. They're great points. Leave them alone. But that's the thing that's why it's so hard, that whether it's your protection issues, whether it's injuries around you, whether it's whatever it is, free agency losses, bad drafting, whatever. I mean, the list goes on and on. To be able to do it as long as Brady and Manning and Breeze now to a point have done it for, I think it speaks volume to what kind of player you are, and you can play with anybody else around you, because when you play that long, there's pieces that have been changed around you.
Let me put it this way then. As a defensive coordinator, who's harder to game plan against now, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers?
That's a good question.
I think it would be. I honestly think it's Aaron Rodgers, because I think the weapons around Aaron Rodgers are so much better.
And
they have 4 legit receivers. I mean,
Right.
legit, and that's not counting Cobb. I mean, they use him now sometimes in the slot. They have 4 receivers that I think can start, whether it's at X or Z, for a lot of teams around the NFL. I think your 4th receiver, whether you want to call it Jordy Nelson or James Jones, or whoever you want to call their 4th receiver, I mean, that's a starting receiver.
Well, are you counting Finley as one of those receivers?
No, I'm counting Finley just even as a
Finley's
tight
right
end.
up there,
So,
too.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, and in some ways, the Texans are a throwback with the balance between pass and run. I mean, you can pass. You haven't been passing because you haven't had to. But these teams like the Patriots and Green Bay haven't had the running game. Like, oh, who needs a running game? We're just going to pass. Who needs a defense? I mean, the Patriots' defense was awful last year until the very end of the year, got into the playoffs. This year, their defense has been terrible. Green Bay's defense has been terrible. But who needs a defense? Who needs a running game? We're just going to pass the ball.
And the thing about Aaron Rodgers is he's so mobile for he's a big quarterback, but he can throw on the run. I think he adds an extra
so
dimension.
precise. Yeah. I mean, he's made some throws this year. You got get
You
out.
know what's funny about Aaron Rodgers too is that I think it's pretty much general knowledge now how much him and Brett Favre don't like each other, and how just how they didn't get along. And I just from what I've heard about Aaron Rodgers, what I've heard about Brett Favre, what I've heard about the relationship, it doesn't sound like it was Aaron Rodgers' fault either. But the funny thing is that you see him now, and you can tell that he learned a ton from him, because he does everything like Brett Favre does. I mean,
Looks like he's
look
play
imitating
action.
him.
just
sometimes.
watch him.
The play
action, the fake throws, the quick release. You watch him at Cal. He's this. He's that textbook. I got 2 hands on the ball in the pocket, and I'm throwing the ball. Now he's sitting in the pocket here, and he just slings it. I mean, he is, like you said, it's amazing his accuracy, but his mechanics are changed. But it's not even that. It's the funny little stuff that I find. He's the only quarterback in the NFL that takes his chin strap and buckles it into the same side where it's just hanging out, whether it's on in between plays, he always unbuttons it, just like Favre used to. And during pregame, there's no other quarterbacks that ever did that I know of. And he's so he's done the little things. You can tell how much tape he's watched of, and whether he likes it or not, he learned a lot from him.
And not only that, he has the same swag or confidence that Brett Favre has. He does
Absolutely.
the belt thing.
The belt-
Not too many quarterbacks
the belt
do
is
that.
awesome.
I love that.
The belt is
I love that.
fantastic.
And he has a little bit of jerk in him on the field. You can
without
tell,
a doubt.
he'll talk trash to
And
you.
Ponder
Sack
just got
fumble.
I think the Vikings actually recovered, but Clay Matthews there.
And
with
even
the
with
hit
that little
forcing the fumble.
celebration, that reminds me of Cushing. Is that a USC thing?
Yeah,
They have the
You
same.
know they're texting each other, I'm
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
back and forth. Like, did you see my celebration?
So it looks like long-haired linebackers. That looks like the wave of the future,
Brooks
right?
Reed on the Texans.
Brooks, that's right.
No, every team needs to have a crazy hair guy
Yep.
to
Tell 'em
succeed.
right there.
No, it's the rule.
Was that they didn't call the
No, they didn't
They
penalty,
didn't call it.
but he did catch him on the face mask, right?
No, you catch him. He launched himself up there, too.
He may get a FedEx
could-
from New York on that one.
Yeah.
The hair was maybe a distraction to the referee there. Adrian Peterson, no question, best running back in the game, right? No offense to, I'm not going to take anything away from Arian, but
yeah, obviously
Peterson
he's a
does
top
more
three.
with less, I think, than anybody in the league.
I mean, I don't think you said that 2 years ago, did you? Is more or less?
I think he's been pretty good for a long time.
I mean,
I
Steve
don't-
Hutchinson's a pretty good left guard, right?
Yeah, one of the best.
It's not like
yeah.
it's not like he doesn't have some guys around him. I mean, he's got some pretty decent players that are around him. Look, I think he's a great player. I think the downfall of his game, and always will be the downfall of this game, is that for whatever reason he doesn't catch the ball real well out of the backfield. And maybe he can, but they never throw it to him out of the backfield.
Yeah.
He catches some screens, but I'm talking about the swing passes, the choice routes, those little things. He doesn't do particularly well. You don't see him doing it a lot. And for whatever reason, he doesn't block that well.
Yeah, that's
You
been one of
watch
the
him.
shots.
He doesn't pick up the blitzes that well.
Right.
He doesn't do those little things that well. And I think that's a big knock on him.
He's just a pure runner.
Yeah, I mean, he's you want to talk about pure runner. He's just a grinder. He's like he reminds me of you watching a great thoroughbred run. He just it looks like he's pulling the earth back as he's running forward,
Right.
and that's how hard he runs. So, but as far as the best, no doubt, hands down, unanimous choice for best back, I'm not so sure I would take him right away if I was picking backs.
Who would you take?
I think Arian's up there. I'm not trying to be, but I think Arian is up there, and I like Arian for the same reasons why I kind of knocked Peterson a little bit. He does everything so well, and everything's so smooth about it. His runs, those little cuts he always makes on the sideline. I cannot believe defenders still don't realize he's going to do
Well,
that.
no, I mean,
It's like they
on
keep
the
falling out of
video.
bounds,
Yeah.
and every time he hits him with that left leg and crosses him over like Iverson and goes right back.
Well,
in the
in
middle.
defense,
And I'm like,
to the
what?
defensive players, is because of all those rules they have protecting the offensive
Oh,
players.
God.
So
Here
you
we go.
subconsciously
Here we go,
start to
ND.
slow down because
Jesus.
you don't want to get the flag.
Don't want to hurt the guy, right?
Whatever.
You don't want the flag. You don't want to get fined. So you start to slow down and say, "Let me just escort him out of bounds." Then he gives you that crossover that you call.
Well,
so
and it doesn't even look. It doesn't even look like he's running with effort.
It
It's
doesn't.
just like
It's like
gliding.
Eric Dickerson. He just
He
strides.
glides
beautiful.
Roger Craig.
in a way
You
that
know
reminds
what?
me of
Go ahead. Who are you about to
Walter
say?
Payton is the guy that I was going to bring up. There were times when Walter, it seemed like his feet barely touched the
I
ground.
heard a great. I thought the best comparison that I've heard from a buddy of mine, and he said he thought that Foster reminds him of Marcus Allen.
I've heard that.
And I think
Yep.
Marcus, and you think back, and I mean, I was pretty young when Marcus, but I remember the highlights. I remember watching him.
Right.
He's got a lot of Marcus Allen. His
Yeah.
stride,
Yeah.
his gait,
His
his
stride's
high
that way.
knee,
He runs
high-
upright.
high
Eric
knee,
Dickerson, same way.
Yeah, Dickerson was like that. The high knees, just everything about caught the ball extremely well. Did everything
Right.
really well. I thought that was really good.
Hey, we want to say a special thanks to our sponsors for Not Your Ordinary Sports Show. They're with us every week, as we hope you are. One of them, the Chicken Kitchen, 2 locations in Houston, generously provide all the food that we have here in the Chicken Kitchen Lounge. We want to say thanks to them for keeping all of us fed, and we want to show you a little scene from their delivery specialist, Chick Norris.
Nice.
And you might want to close the back of the van there. Chick Norris, part of Chicken Kitchen. Also a fan of the show, I'm told. In fact, Chick's out here to provide us with our first quarter
Whoa.
beverages.
Thank you, Chick.
Thank you, sir.
Or Chick.
Water.
Thank you, Chick.
Chick Norris.
Did Aaron Rodgers just fumble the ball? Was that on his own?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he had some help.
That doesn't go down as a sack, does it?
Did they touch him? I didn't see it.
Well, Allen touched.
I was distracted by Chick.
So that because it fumbled it before. So if you fumble it before, and then Allen hits you and brings him down, and then he still gets on the ball.
And was it obvious going to be a pass play?
Yeah, but he fumbled it before he got touched.
It's a sack. If he goes down, then he touches him. At least back when I played, that was still considered a sack.
No, I know.
We
It
used to
still is.
try
It
to-
still is. But
yeah.
it's like, what I'm saying is it was a fumble, though, before he got touched.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? So he's here, fumbles it, then gets tackled.
Huh.
I think that's a sack if it's a pass play.
But I understand the point, because if it's a fumble,
Then it kind of rules out
it's
everything.
right.
See what 69 is going to do here.
69. You got an LSU guy in here?
No, Jared Allen.
Jared Allen.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Jeez.
That
I
makes
mean,
you
you're sitting
quarterback.
there and you're the Minnesota Vikings. You're anybody else getting ready for
Well, and-
Aaron Rodgers, and they do that to you on 3rd and 8.
And
You're
he,
saying to yourself, "Hey, we can't defend this any
well,
better."
and he thinks, I heard him talking about it. He thinks that this is a safe throw.
This is safe throw. They can't get this one.
Well, from the fact that it's hard to pick that off.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that's a safe throw. I don't know. I still
driver,
find it
yeah.
hard to believe it's a high percentage throw, but it seems like for them it has been.
But in looking at that last play, we were talking about Tom Brady compared to Aaron Rodgers. I would give Tom Brady the edge because he doesn't have a receiver that will make that play. Tom Brady makes average receivers look very good, and I don't think he has a guy that he could just lob it up to and is going to snatch it out of the air.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's not Aaron Rodgers' fault though either.
Oh, no, and you can't fault him.
And
but
I will say this: when Brady had the big three, when Brady had Welker, Moss, and Stallworth, their numbers are very comparable. Rodgers' numbers are just as good, or he's more yards actually than when Brady had that
when
year.
Brady had those big three.
So
I still
just
say
playing devil's
Brady.
advocate.
I was impressed with Manning's year last year with all the injuries that they had, and no defense and no running game, and he just like, okay, we'll get double-digit
You know what though
wins.
about Indianapolis? I think defense that's always, I guess, a little misleading. Is that for whatever reason they always do best defense by yards given up, and that defense will give up yards, but they don't give up a ton of points.
Although I would say that if you look at even non-traditional stats, their defense doesn't look very good.
What,
I mean,
this year?
No,
I was about to say.
previous years. Even previous years, their defense hasn't looked good. Now, of course, part of that is they get into shootouts. I mean, that's what's been amazing about the Texans' run is typically if you get into where you're scoring a lot of points, it's putting pressure on the other side to score points,
They
and there
throw
can be
more,
garbage,
and
and they'll
they
get
throw more.
garbage time. So it's hard to have a good offense with a statistically good defense. So I mean, the run that the Texans have made is kind of old school.
I mean, our defense is playing so well right now. I've heard some stats. Three games before the Tampa Bay game, they didn't give up 200 yards, which is insane. I mean, that's
Yeah.
you don't give up 250 and you're jazzed up. I mean, that's a great day at the office. That hold doesn't get called on Brizell. That's it. And
That was
here's
nuts.
two great stats. Foster goes for 40 or something
Yeah.
down the sideline. He becomes the first player since the merger to ever have 100-yard rushing and 100-yard receiving twice in a season.
Wow.
No one's ever done that twice in a receiving. When he did it at Tennessee, he was only the 32nd person in NFL history to do it. Then, at the same time, they probably don't get back on the field. They don't get over 200 yards. They end up getting
they were
220.
under 200 at that point?
They got 220 or something.
Yeah,
for
it was
the
a
game.
bad day for the defense.
Yeah, it's a bad day. They're all like, they're over 200 yards. It's like, I'm sitting there like, wow, how far we've come. They're pissed off giving over 200. I'm just like, hey,
During the first quarter
I'll
last year.
take it. But that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Both of those things. I mean, that's incredible.
I didn't realize that they were under 200 when they got before they had the ball back for their last drive.
Oh, that third quarter was crazy.
Oh, that
The
was,
third quarter, they gave up a yard or something like that.
I mean, it
the
was
third quarter?
nuts.
Well, I think we ran. We ran it every play except 3. We only passed the ball
Yeah,
3 times.
three
in the
times
second
second half. Yeah.
That's incredible. The thing too, I mean, it wasn't like the game was a blowout at halftime. It was 16-3. Obviously, we had a good lead, but you come out and we ran the ball. I think on those first 2 drives where we scored 2 straight touchdowns, I think we ran the ball every time except the one.
Now tell me this, offensive linemen, y'all take special pride in run blocking. What is it? Is it you just feel like it's more of a tougher sequence when you're going and when you're shooting forward to block the defensive lineman? I just know that ever since I played, ever since I've been a fan of the game, when the coach calls a running play, y'all just get excited, and with the pass play, it's kind of like,
I
let me
think
protect my
I think it's in
quarterback.
everyone's nature to be aggressive.
Okay.
And I think if you're a good pass blocker, you better not be aggressive because you get caught lunging, you get caught on your face a lot if you're going to do that. But I think it's so hard too, with athletes like yourself, athletes like Peppers, Allen, whoever you want to call over there. You can only go backwards so many times before you're going to get beat. I mean, it's not a. It's a thing. They put up another one. Doing what good teams do.
ESPN just loves this game.
They're loving it.
They're like, great, another one. We've had such a good Monday night schedule this year so far. But getting back to it, that's, I think, for an offensive lineman, you get to is that, hey, we can be aggressive. And then when you're running the ball so well, you can still be aggressive in the pass because you're usually calling the play action passes. You're calling the bootlegs. You're calling, even not the bootlegs, but, where you fake the handoff. He comes back in the pocket, maybe a little bit over the guard or tackle, and then he throws it. But you watch us, we're still firing out at guys because you have to respect the run so much that Ephraim Salaam taught me this a long time ago. He always said, if you believe, they'll believe. And if you believe that, hey, this is I'm selling this like a run play, they have to, they have to sit down and play it.
No, but isn't that the key to how the Texans do?
Without a doubt.
Like especially even when there's a naked bootleg, you're not blocking any differently on that end. But some teams. That's the thing is, some teams do.
Some people, it's so infuriating sometimes watching other people because you'll see a couple tackles take 2 steps and then they try to mirror the guy, and I'm like, you just gave up. Because what's happening is the safeties looking right through the tight end or right through the tackle to the running back. If he sees me pop straight up in the air, he starts on his back pedal. He knows it's probably not a run at that point. It's very few runs if it is. It's some sort of draw. But doing those things, and I really believe. He's never said this, but I think this is the offense that Kubiak always wanted to.
Yes.
Even when we were putting up 4,700 yards passing it, even last year when we were doing some unbelievable things, running the ball in, I still think this is the offense.
Well,
we always want. This is that kind of.
Well, you haven't been able to run it because if you're playing from behind, you have
tough.
to be
Absolutely.
throwing.
But I also think we're doing a better job of establishing leads this year. I think we're doing a better job of taking command of the game early, and I think that's a big plus, and I think that's been working in our favor.
Now, do you think part of that is changing what you were doing in the off season as far as at camp? Going into things faster? Is it just it sometimes happens where some years you start off slow?
Yeah, I think it's always something in years. I always think it's something. And you remember, I think in 2008 we had scored. We literally got to the end of the year and we had scored a touchdown, or we scored some sort of points on 13 of 16 games or something like that. The year where Steve Slayton had a great year. We scored so fast that year, and we haven't ever done anything different. And that's the thing is, last year was frustrating because we did start off slow, but. Gosh, we felt like we were doing the same things. We felt like we were ready, and guys weren't making a lot of mistakes. It wasn't like guys weren't ready.
Or
sometimes,
sometimes we talk about red zone scoring. Some years you've been great, some years not so great. And from what the advanced statistical people tell me is if you have a good offense, eventually you'll do better in the red zone because you're.
I think you'll do better in the red zone. I think as good as your running game is, you'll do better in the red zone because they have to start picking their poison. I think a little bit too. They can't sit back and play a too high safety in the red zone because you will get it in at that point. And then if they do that, they come up. You got some slants. You got some other things that are options to you.
Would you as a lineman rather have a 1,600-yard running back or 4,000-yard passer, quarterback? For you as a lineman. I know we want to have both, but
wins.
You get to pick. Yeah. Wins. Yeah.
I think it depends on how drastic the drop-off is on the other one.
Fair.
I really believe in that. I think this is what's also great about this offense. I really believe you can have both. And
what's
they feed off of each other.
Right.
And and the classic example is you watch what Tampa Bay did yesterday, and kind of watching them on offense. I'm looking around on their field. First of all, I look at their personnel. They got Winslow. They got Preston Parker. They got Arterios Ben. You got another guy over there. Mike Williams. Gosh, you got LeGarrette Blount, and you got this big, good-looking guy, Josh Freeman. That guy's a stud. You look at him, I think he's as tall as I am. I really do. He is a monster.
Yeah.
And you look at it, they got some decent tackles. I think they're good. I think Penn's a good player. I think Trueblood's above average right tackle. Fain's been a grid center in this league for a long time. And you wonder why they're not doing anything. And we go back to, I always go back to identity. I always go back, what are they doing? What are they doing to set up? It doesn't seem like they're doing anything to set up anything else. They don't play action a lot. They don't run, a certain run. They kind of just go to that generic well that everybody runs. And the thing I like about our offense is we do things. Everybody runs the same way, same plays, but I think we run them differently than anybody else. And I think that's what makes it fun. I think that's what makes it successful.
Yeah, you're selling on the line. You're selling the run every play, whether or not you're running or not.
True.
And I mean, really, I mean, isn't the whole point like this year where you're getting on teams early with both the run and the pass, and then you get the lead, it helps out the defense, and then in the second half you just run it down their throat, and they can't do anything about it because they're wore out.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not just wore out from the runs, but they're also worn out from the bootlegs. I mean, Indy, you chase 2 bootlegs down 2 straight plays, and then you come out, then you come back and then you hit them in the mouth twice, and then you're like, Jesus, it's tough for them. And we knew going in that game they only had 3 healthy defensive tackles, and that was counting Hainsworth, who just got there.
And it's 80 degrees.
I don't think it was a coincidence we started the
without
game
a
off
cloud.
with 2 straight bootlegs. That's something that we're getting them moving early. It was a little hot. It was a little warm. It was
not by Houston standards.
No, not.
But
for mid-November,
Yeah.
it was a little unseasonably warm. I don't think it caught anybody by surprise, but I think for them not being able to come out of that game as freely, it was tough. And I think it's always the ultimate compliment when when they start doing stuff that you've never seen on film and they just start picking stuff out. We've had that happen pretty much the last 4 weeks.
How often do you see these Vikings formations? First off, Joe Webb came in and ran an option play instead of Ponder handling the ball, and then the Vikings here line up Percy Harvin as a deep tailback, maybe a couple of yards deeper than normal, and 2, I don't know if it was a tight end and a fullback or 2 H-backs in the backfield on either side of the quarterback. The Vikings here trying to switch things up a little bit. Now they're back in a standard.
Well, here's what I don't understand: is why is Percy Harvin out of the game on 3rd and 4? That's something I don't get. I don't know if he just took himself out or what, but he needs to be in there on those third downs. You might want to block that guy.
Nice pass from Ponder.
That goes back to what Indy you were saying. I mean, that's all Ponder right there.
Wow.
That's all Ponder. You leave one of the NFL's best players unblocked. He gets away from him and then throws a strike between 2 people down the field. That's impressive.
Wow.
And I wasn't and I'll be the first one to say, I wasn't a big fan of the Vikings taking Ponder right there. I thought it was a complete reach. I thought I didn't think what he did at Florida State warranted. It wasn't like he took Florida State to BCS games and they were world beaters when he was there. So I was surprised that he was taking that high.
See, and I know how we do the draft coverage together. A lot of people felt like it was a reach, but my thought at the time was, well, who are you going to take if you need a quarterback instead of Ponder?
True.
Harvin just took a handoff here out of the backfield. I mean, they're using him in a lot of different ways. I don't think we've seen this from the Vikings. I don't know. We don't get to see a lot of their games down in this part of the country, but it's kind of an unusual situation to be handing off to your wide receiver when you have one of, if not the best back in the NFL in your backfield.
They're clearly looking at old Florida tapes because he did that a lot.
He did
in
both,
Florida,
right? Yeah.
absolutely. He lined up as tailback, and they just handed to him in a deep eye.
You really are SEC guy. Huh?
Yeah, well, I watched what he did to LSU for a couple of years. I'm still bitter, but that's okay.
A couple of questions on the Verizon Twitter feed. Oh, wait, hang on. Let's see what this flag is all about. Is that going to be on offense or defense? Harvin push off to get some separation there?
He's not celebrating, so it's probably on him.
A little shove there in front of the referee.
Got a little grin on his face. Yeah,
While
that's
they're
what happened.
sorting it out, the Twitter feed @TheBusTV on Twitter. Send us your questions. Yeah, definitely a push in the back. Question: we were talking about Brett Favre earlier and Aaron Rodgers. Question: do the Packers and Vikings go out after the game for beers and tell Brett Favre jokes?
That's
they
a good
can
one.
I remember the time when.
experience.
Hey, remember the time when
He didn't show up for camp and then just wanted the job.
Remember that
How
picture
about
he
that?
sent on the text? No, wait, let's not get into
No,
it.
but I
The
mean,
time he
it's
threw the
seriously-
interception last play of the game. Oh, yeah, we had that too.
Oh, wow.
And the Vikings down 14-0. This is a spirited drive. I'll give them that much.
Well, it's not like they're out of it. I mean, they're down a couple scores. Obviously, they've hit them fast with a punt and then a couple of big throws. But, they're doing their thing right here. I think this is what the Vikings have to do. They have to try to eat up some clock. They can't keep giving Rodgers the ball over and over and over again. I thought you're going to see a steady dose of Adrian Peterson. I think if he can get up into the high 20s in carries, I think they'll probably be around here at the end of the game to try to win this thing.
Another Twitter question. This from our friend and a guest on the show last week, Lance Zerline. Eric, could the Texans trade 3 first-round picks to someone for a QB? Maybe borrowing a page out of Al Davis's book.
Well, the trade deadline's over.
I know.
So you can
It's Lance.
No.
He's kidding.
Oh, is that Lance? Oh, I didn't hear.
The 2 first-round picks that they traded for, for Carson Palmer.
Sorry, Lance. As much as I know you'd want that to happen.
They make for some good talk radio.
Who would you trade for, though? I think that's a better question.
For if you were the Texans?
Well, I mean, no, I'm just saying in general. If you wanted a quarterback, who's out there that you desperately trade
Oh, for a backup?
Yeah. No, for a player to play now.
Oh, don't get that conversation started. You
No.
know where the Houston fans are going to go.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
really.
not even going to throw the name.
I'm just
He's
saying.
sitting in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yeah. Backup in Philadelphia?
Yep.
What's his name
Oh
again?
my God,
Yep.
you're right.
What's his name?
That thought never even came through my mind.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, as soon as the word
Jesus.
got out about Shaw that there were some
Bring him
Houston
down here.
fans saying, "Hey, go out and get VY." Thank goodness the trade deadline has passed.
Uh-oh.
Speaking of quarterbacks and VY, when you look at his win-loss record as a starter, it's pretty impressive. And it reminds me of another guy who's on the other side of the spectrum with his off-field antics. That's Tim Tebow. And I'm the one guy who says, don't just say a quarterback wins the game. It's a team sport.
Yeah.
But you have to be wondering what's going on with this guy. He continues to find a way to win. Is it just his presence? He's
Well,
on the
I'll
ball
say this:
for
if you're going
8
to say
times.
if you're going to say all Tim Tebow does is win, then what are you saying that all Cam Newton does is lose?
Right.
Great point.
No.
Okay.
No
so-
question who the more talented quarterback is. But are the Broncos, the thing that I'm interested by
There's
is
Woodson
they're
right there.
doing
Oh, we
things
dropped it.
unconventionally. They're not even trying to pass the ball. He was 2 of 8.
eight passes.
Yeah,
Well,
well, how
you do
bizarre
what
was
you can
yesterday,
do.
right?
You
How
do
bizarre
what
was
you can
yesterday? He
do.
completed 2 passes in the game. Okay, and he ran 55 times.
55
And
carries.
you flip that with the Ravens. You know, you got Ray Rice over there. He ran 5 times, and Flacco threw 52 times.
Which
Bizarre.
is-
See, but I respect what Denver's doing. They know what they have, and they
Yeah.
say, you know what, we're not going to try to turn him into a passer, but 8, man.
And he's
Yeah.
in such a bad situation because you don't want to be, as a quarterback, like when we were talking earlier, with the people that didn't draft you.
Right.
I mean,
tough.
that's a hard
That is tough.
situation, but, you know, he's the guy that they have. And, you know, the reason why you don't make a Tebow offense or you don't make a Vince Young offense is because people get hurt. And then if they can't do the things that they do, then you're out of
I
luck.
think it's like anything. I think with that, you'd have to fully commit to it too. I mean, your backup would have to be a similar guy.
No, if you do that, you're just saying, please fire me. I'm a head coach. Please fire me. Because what head coaches want are repeatable things. They want to be able to put people in positions to succeed. And if you have a proven system, you can get people of all different sorts to do your system. But with a special talent that you have to change the whole nature of running an offense, you can't do that. It's only 16 games, and there's so much money involved. And if Vince Young pulls a hammy or Tim Tebow goes down, well, I mean, I guess they can go back to what they were doing, but it's not something, you know, it's like a golf swing. You want something repeatable because when you're under pressure, you want to be able to repeat it.
See,
And if you don't have something that you can go back to, I think, you know, it's nice that you have those special elements, but in some ways, if they get hurt, that's a coach killer.
But I always thought with guys like VY, Tim Tebow, you need both of those guys on the same team. Because if VY or Tim Tebow's the
That's what
starter
I was saying.
and the backup goes out, I don't think you have to change the playbook. So you
But
have to know.
That's what I'm saying. You'd have to have a guy.
How's that
ballsy
working
enough.
out for the Eagles?
You have to have a guy ballsy enough to commit
That's
to it.
beyond just a quarterback. Because actually, Michael Vick, I don't know what the
No,
stats
they're
are
not
like
the
because I'm
same
not a
player
big stat
either.
guy.
Yeah, they're not
But
the
Michael Vick is playing. Besides his last game, he was playing pretty good ball. I mean, there was a couple of games that I was watching that I was like, man, that was a laser sharp throw. Or, you know, this
Well,
is
and
the
the
only guy that's
defense has
carrying
been
the team.
crud.
The defense, they're in that wide 9 and they don't have any linebackers. You could get away with the wide 9 when you have 2 legit
Big guys.
linebackers. They don't have that over there. So I actually think Michael Vick he's playing like a trooper. The stats might not show it, but the eye test.
Played with
Well,
it
and
shows.
broke
he's
2
Two
ribs
ribs.
in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
game yesterday, and maybe that was a reason why he struggled so much. Because you're right.
Well,
Up
and
until
he's
that
not
game, he'd been
completely
playing pretty well.
Well,
and
and
he's
they
not
took away his
completely
number one receiver, too.
untraditional.
That's
I mean,
nice.
he can throw the ball.
Nice.
And what
he
you
was-
make
he was
of that?
sleeping.
I mean, Deshaun Jackson apparently has had a history of problems there, but he misses a team meeting Saturday, so they leave him inactive. Macklin gets hurt, who's been their number 1 receiver this year, and you know Vic's playing with 2 cracked ribs. They need the weapons out there. Deshaun Jackson, should he have been suspended for that? I mean, that may have cost Andy Reid. I don't know if it's going to cost him his job, but it may have cost him a shot at the playoffs.
Well, it cost them that game. If Deshaun Jackson's playing in that game, I think they win the game. But I'm also big on discipline. I mean, you can't.
Katie's referee girl coming in here as the Vikings challenge this call. What'd you see?
All right. I don't care what happened because the Vikings, I'm going to go for them right now.
You just want to
they
see a
need
good game.
Honestly, my dad's a Packers fan, so I got to go for the Vikings right now.
Nice.
Well,
You're
you know,
still
I
on that
said
stage, huh?
You and
Just piss your
ESPN
dad
too.
off.
They're saying, please
Still at that stage. Piss your dad
Cancel
off.
out his vote.
I
No.
actually sometimes think when one team is way out in front that the refs kind of want it to be more
Subconscious.
even
Yeah.
to make it, probably subconsciously.
And aside
but
from that, I mean, I'm obsessed with the Flavor Flav Viking helmet, so they already got me there.
What are they wearing? A
Yeah, there's a
clock
big-
around
yeah,
their
right.
Oh, you know it. I was Flavor Flav for a night of Halloween.
Were
so
you?
it was
Where
Where are the
pretty
pictures?
intense.
Put them up there. Let's look at them.
yeah, really.
We'll get him. We'll get him.
So, yeah, this was Charles Woodson trying to wrestle the ball away from the Vikings receiver. Looked to me like the ball hit the ground. I'm actually surprised they're taking this long to review it.
Speaking of Charles Woodson, I think he's one of those underappreciated players.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
he goes to his Pro Bowls. He's going to the Hall of Fame. But I tweeted this once, and I think you responded or some other people responded, but I tweeted that he's putting together a resume where he could argue that he was one of the best DBs to ever play in the NFL.
He's done it all, too.
Yeah.
He's done it all.
He's
For a
done it
long
all.
time.
Long time.
Won a Heisman, one of
That's
the
right.
only defensive players to win a Heisman. The career
Returning
he put
kicks,
together in
yep.
Oakland was
Another
awesome.
one.
Than what
False
he did in
start
Green Bay.
on the field goal. How does that happen?
Yeah.
You can get antsy in there,
love
believe me. When you're sitting there and you know a guy's about to run straight into you and you're not going to do anything about it except sit there and take it.
We used to love that.
And they go like that.
Yeah, yeah, simmer down.
You do that.
But that's going to move this from a 47-yard attempt to a 52-yard attempt.
Ouch. Good luck with that.
Well, if it was against the Texans, they'd make it because I guess haven't the Texans had the most 50
50
yards?
yarders given up, yeah.
I think they're
It's
tied
gonna
with
get
one
there.
other team.
That is a nice.
Oh.
Oh, it did.
Oh, just a little short.
Whoa.
It's tough to kick in Lambeau, too. It looks like the wind's playing a little
How
bit.
bad does that guy feel who had the false start called on him? Because he made the kick the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
That's 3 points off the board.
That's 3 points off the board. It's great field position, too. It's
Yeah,
from
it
the
is.
spot of the kick.
Right. They'll be, what, around the 42-yard line. Another hot topic from Sunday's games, the Falcons-Saints game. They're in overtime. The Falcons have the ball on their own 30-yard line, 4th and inches, and Mike Smith, after sending the punt team out there, decides instead to go for it, 4th and about a foot. They don't make it. The Saints end up having a chip shot field goal because of that decision. Right decision or wrong decision for Mike Smith?
I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm aggressive play caller. When you have Mike Turner, that offensive line, I think you're telling your offensive line, you know what, I have faith in you. Go prove me right. So I wouldn't rake him over the coals.
You can make arguments obviously for both. There's statistics out there that said it's smart of him to go for it. That really at the end of the day, it's probably a coin flip. A chance of winning. Your chance of winning maybe goes down 5% punting, but it's basically a coin flip if you whether you punt it or
Although
not.
some of the statistics don't really look at game situation.
Sure,
that
yeah,
is,
they don't. Just
okay,
4th and
is this
1.
it's 4th and 1, and you don't know if it's inches or 1, and the game situation.
Sure.
This is for all the marbles. If
In
you make
overtime,
it,
you don't get the ball back.
No,
I
so
think
it's
that nobody's and everyone, and obviously everyone has an opinion on this. I think most people would say, hey, you obviously punt there, you play defense, you got a pretty good
you're
defense.
against the Saints.
You're against the Saints, and you're at your place too. It's not like you're on the road. You're at your place, cracking it loud. What I didn't like was the play call.
Yeah.
It was
Either
Turner,
your 4th
they
and
gave the ball to
inches,
Turner,
your
right?
4th and inches, either your quarterback sneak it right there for an inch. Now, if you're at 4th and a yard, that's different. You're 4th and a foot or less, that's a quarterback sneak every time, or it's a quick handoff to Snelling on a fullback dive real quick. I mean, those are the 2 play calls. I think to me, those are the only 2 play calls.
It did take a while to develop.
Yeah, you get a guy, then you got a chance of getting a guy knocked in the backfield, because he's not sure. When you just able to wedge it right there, you get it right up the middle, and you're going to get the foot. They're going to give you the foot pretty much, unless you just got someone just completely stuffed. And I just didn't see that happening. I thought the play call was pretty questionable as well. I don't think a lot of people are saying that.
I like the aggressiveness of Mike Smith, but to me it's the field position. If you're doing that on the 45 or the 50-yard line, they still have to get a couple of first downs to get in field goal range. But at that point, they don't get it, and they're already in field goal range.
Here's what I didn't like, I guess, about the going for it is this. It's like, what does it get you? All right, I mean, if it's a thing where, okay, you're up 3 points or 4 points or 1 point, whatever it is. I remember Indy, you were still playing my rookie year in Jacksonville. We were clinging to a lead. We got 4th and a foot. We're on our own 35-yard line. I think you remember this. And Kubiak goes for it. Now, they didn't have any timeouts left, and it was like 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. We get it, we win the game.
I remember that.
And we go for it, and I still remember the play we ran. It was one of my first plays in, too. That was my first time ever playing consistently because Uyghur had just gotten hurt that game. And me and Fred double-teamed the 3 technique. We ran it right over the top, and we got it, and we won the game. But here's my thing is
You're saying if Zach Wiegert was in, y'all wouldn't have
No,
got it?
I'm saying this. It's one of those situations where right there we got one play to win the game or one play maybe to lose the game. Atlanta getting that first down, what did that get them?
They get some
Another set of downs. Another set of downs and 50 more yards to go to kick a field goal.
As a defensive player, do you care?
At that point, it didn't, you could only lose the game.
I mean, do you care that? I mean, I've heard a bunch of other people talk about, defensive, be ticked off about it. Would you care that they went for it there? I mean, you got to play defense either way, but.
That's a good question. I wouldn't take it personal. Yeah. Just like with the situation Eric just described, I was a defense on that team. And basically, he was saying he didn't want to put it in our hands.
So that's how much he cared.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's how much he cared. That's how much it really bothered him.
Right.
And he didn't even remember.
He didn't even remember it.
Oh, yeah. I vaguely remember that. I vaguely remember that.
I was eating popcorn over there. No, but really what you're really thinking, because in that situation as a defense, you want them to get the first down because you don't want to go out there in that situation, especially when they call it. You don't want to go out there when they're already in field goal range, and it's almost like, well, what can we do? We're going to have to make a spectacular play. So when you hear that they're going for it, you're more concerned about rooting them on and cheering them on for the first down than you are thinking, well, how come he didn't punt it? He doesn't trust us. Guys are competitors. We want to go out there. But let's be real. Overtime, 4th and 1, you're like, hey, y'all better get it. We don't want to go back out there. Y'all go in the game for us.
We had Josh Abbott from the Josh Abbott Band on with us last week. He tweeted during the game that it was the dumbest call of the season. I don't know if we'll go that far. If they get that 1 yard, people are talking about what a ballsy call it is for Mike Smith, right?
Maybe.
These guys
maybe.
Depends on what happens.
But it depends on what happens. Okay, say they get it, then go 3 and out and punt. After that, or they go
field position.
So you just risked all that.
Flip the field.
Right. Hardly though. I mean,
the risk reward wasn't a great situation.
That's my point. Is that I don't think the thing what you can say about Belichick is you get that first down, you win the game.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's just like Belichick, and now people. I was like, no, it's different.
Not.
Well, and
you don't win. You don't get anything if you get the first down. All you get is another set of downs. You don't have a chance. It's not one play to win. If you get a chance, if you're a defensive football team, obviously you punt there or whatever. If you're an offensive football team, you got Tom Brady, you got one of the best quarterbacks ever, you got whoever. If you're an offensive football team, then you ride with your offense.
Well, and then also, it's not like Drew Brees is great, but Peyton Manning was a special quarterback when it came to the 2-minute drill. Sure. Like if you look at his 2-minute drill stats, they're like it's almost like his quarterback rating is higher during the 2-minute drill. I mean, so in that particular Patriots situation, Peyton Manning single-handedly changes how you have to coach because you don't want him to get the ball back. Now,
Smith said that it was because of Brees. I mean, it's almost to me like he was telling his defense
too much
that they were afraid of Drew Brees. I don't think as a defensive player.
You don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that you're afraid of another player. Drew Brees is an elite quarterback. Well, John Abraham, Edwards, the rest of those rushers he has on defense, they want a chance to get after him. But I think also people are forgetting about the intangibles. What about getting the first down and the momentum just completely shifting to Atlanta, saying, wow, you know what, our coach had faith in us. It's overtime. He doesn't care. I'm going to play loosey-goosey and just have a good time during this overtime scenario when everybody's real tight. Don't forget about the intangibles about it also. I think the first down, if they were able to get the first down, it would have been more than just a first down. It also would have been a shift in momentum.
The Packers come back to start the second quarter. You've had a 2-minute break. And they have to call timeout. Tell me, from a football player's perspective.
Then they call timeout.
Oh, they had a false start. And so then you change the play, maybe you don't.
Ungood.
Ungood. Technical term.
These are the defending Super Bowl champs.
This is not profane way of saying it.
This is not an 0-10 team here. Tell me, just from a serious standpoint, what causes that? Does the quarterback get to the line and see something he doesn't like?
Well, the false start happens just because you're human.
Not the false start.
Human.
I'm talking about
that's something I think. Whether the play call came in wrong, sometimes the quarterback gets the play call and he doesn't realize that the formation's jacked and it wasn't supposed to be that, or I mean, it could be a lot of things, or something comes up, play clock runs down. That wasn't the play clock situation. So there's a lot of different things that can cause a quarterback to call timeout. I think the most prevalent one is you get your play clock goes down, the call doesn't come in fast enough, and that's the other thing I think we do a good job of here is you hardly ever see us having to call timeouts or ever get delay game penalties because we're always snapping the ball with 17 seconds left, 18, 20 seconds left on the play clock. And I think that goes towards, too, what we've been doing in the second half and wearing teams down. I mean, you're constantly running plays and constantly going at them at a high speed. I think it's tough for people to defend that for 60 minutes.
And there's a time, I forget which game it was on Sunday, there's a key part of the game on the line, and they have 12 men in the huddle. And they tried to slip somebody out, or maybe that was the Thursday night game, the Raiders-Chargers game, I think, where they had 12 men in the huddle and they tried to slip a guy out. I mean, it's interesting to see that doesn't happen more often in the NFL with all the different personnel groupings you can have, for more teams not to have that problem.
Yeah, but all you have to do is just make sure the quarterback knows just to stay
not to step in, right?
That's the thing. It's like,
can he count to 11 or 12 maybe? Yeah, that's a tough spot. Hey, coming up in the next commercial timeout, we're going to have our first one-on-one segment with Eric Winston. He's going to go one-on-one with Texans blogger and 2006 Ultimate Texans fan Steph Stradley, sitting to mine and to his left. As we get to we'll get to that in the next commercial break here. Was that a designed run for Aaron Rodgers?
There we go. We're playing the feud. We're playing the feud.
It's
Jared Allen.
Division.
Yeah.
Jared Allen, dirty player or not?
No.
He did injure your quarterback one year on a cheap shot. Twice.
Was it cheap? I mean, was he really aiming at his knees?
It sure does look like that from the video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he's like 6'7".
there is.
I mean,
the Brady rule says that a defender, if they're not blocked into the quarterback, has to affirmatively.
You think a guy who's going 100 miles an hour is really thinking about that?
Twice in that game. Yeah. He did it twice in that game.
I've met him. He's one of those fun-loving, just enjoys life. He doesn't want to be malicious. And again, I was on the field that time. I don't think he was thinking, I'm going to try to.
I don't think people think of him as a dirty player. Now, whether he is or not, like I said.
Well, he wants sacks. That's how you make money.
Yep.
Look at this. Finley's double covered here. Or somebody comes over to help out. He may be the best tight end in the game, and they don't really throw to him that much because they have so many other weapons.
That's the thing with him. He's so physically talented. He's a receiver trapped in a 6'6", 260-pound body.
Now, that was the guy you talked about, Josh Freeman, seeing him in person. I was lucky enough to be, there you go.
Did Allen get that?
Speaking of
Williams got the first hand on him.
Half and half.
Yeah. I love his celebration, by the way.
What was that?
When he's roping the cattle?
Roping the calf.
Who has the best, whether it's sack, touchdown, big play celebration?
Today. I don't know.
I don't think Eric likes any of the
sack
there's
sack questions.
You know what's funny is that the fathead, or not the fathead, but what do they call those things that stick on the wall?
Fatheads. Yeah.
That's getting Clay Matthews a ton of. My daughter said, "Dad, who's the guy that does this?"
Yeah.
I started laughing. I was like, "Yeah, that's Clay Matthews." That's getting him a lot around. I don't know if that's that good. Kevin Williams does a pretty good Ric Flair when he gets.
What was it? I haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen that one where he kind of starts strutting?
Oh, okay, yeah, where he does the thing. Okay.
Who did the Pee Wee Herman yesterday? Somebody after a sack did Pee Wee Herman.
That's not very manly.
No. You don't expect to see that on a football field.
Although I thought the suggestion the other day that fans should come to the Atlanta game wearing Cushing jerseys and blood coming off of their face, that.
What, real blood?
Well, no, fake blood. Well, I guess they could.
Everyone's got razor blades cutting themselves.
It's another definition of Battle Red Day, I guess, and taking it a step further.
There he is again.
Jeez.
Oh, this game's about to get out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
Finley, set to be a free agent, I think, at the end of this year, has already said he's going to petition the league or whatever you have to do to go into free agency in terms of franchise tag clarification as a receiver as opposed to a tight end.
I think what will end up happening is he'll end up getting a split, just like outside linebackers and defensive ends.
Somebody got that last year, right?
A couple years ago,
Terrell Suggs
got it. And then, and I'm sure he's going to try to do the same. He's trying to get at least.
Because wide receivers make a lot more.
Sure, their franchise tag is a lot higher.
All right, the Vikings hold them to just a field goal. They're still down by 17. Time now for our first one-on-one. Steph Stradley, the 2006 Ultimate Texans fan, going one-on-one as we get the stage set here. Take a look at the video of Steph talking about her support of the Texans.
Hey everybody, I'm with my favorite football expert, Stephanie Stradley, who is the Texans chick and the ultimate Texan fan, as voted by millions in 2006. Stephanie's been on the radio with us before, and I wanted to make sure you met her on television, and we're glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Now, there's that misconception that the ladies don't necessarily know that much about football. You, on the other hand, I have to prepare the night before when I talk to her. Give me your game plan to beat the Colts this Sunday.
Well, I think that the obvious game plan is the one that everybody knows. It's time of possession, keeping Peyton Manning off the field. Last year, he could pretty much move the ball at will. I think they stopped him the time that they got a fumble. But ultimately, you want to keep Peyton Manning off the field and shoot clock and, make it a game into the fourth quarter.
There you have it. There's your complete game plan. Now, how did you get to become such a football expert? You are a graduate of UT, and you're a lawyer.
I've always been a football fan. My grandmother was a big football fan. My mom is. And it's just something that I paid attention to. And when the Oilers left town, I was more heartbroken than any breakup. And I think Houstonians either responded to that by not paying attention to football anymore, or when the team came back and we got a team in Houston, they got a little enthusiastic about that team, and I'm that group.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for going
one-on-one.
Now, your fandom is well documented, I think, around Houston.
I don't know
about
that.
Where did it start? Where does your start? Is it from your father, your mother? I mean, where does your football beginnings kind of start?
I guess it's my grandmother was the biggest Vikings fan, and I thought that the name of the team was Dem Damn Vikings because all those Super Bowls. And my mom was a Vikings fan. I was born in Wisconsin, so I was a Green Bay fan. I didn't understand the whole divisional thing, so I would root for the Packers unless they and I would root for the Vikings unless they were playing the Packers. So, and I moved around a lot as a kid, and the NFL is a nice way to kind of follow different places from place to place. And I moved here in the middle of Love You Blue, and so I had to be an Oilers fan.
So, what are the other big teams that you followed in your life?
The Redskins, some because we lived right outside of DC. Yeah, so I came to Houston already not really a Cowboys fan.
There you go. That's a good thing.
All right.
Now. So you come here in the Love You Blue days.
Yeah, Earl.
Yeah, obviously getting enthralled with the Oilers. And how was that now, I guess, as a fan, following the Oilers, leading up to their departure?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's so many Houstonians that during that time, their whole Sundays was all about being, arranging their whole Sundays about Oiler football. And then all of a sudden, we didn't have a team, and there was no way that Houstonians could stop the Oilers from moving. There was lawsuits filed, but by the time it was announced, it was already a done deal. So there was nothing, people go, oh, well, Houston didn't care, and no, Houston cared. We just couldn't do anything about it because it was a done deal. And so then after that, I thought we would never get a team because LA was supposed to be next in line.
That was 9 years?
It was, I don't even
was
know.
That long?
I try to not to. No,
7 years, something like
I
that?
try not to even think of it. It was awful because you need a team to root for. You can't just root against teams because it's not nearly as fun. So every fall it was just kind of empty not having your primary team where you're, I used to buy, back in the day, there was the Post and the Chronicle. I'd buy both newspapers when it was, training camp time, trying to get, and then it was just all of a sudden there was nothing. And so when we got a team back, like a lot of Texan fans, it's like, wait, we got a team. I'm not going to take this team for granted. And it's been kind of a challenge.
Well, it's been impressive too because even though Texans haven't been, I guess, lived up to a lot of people's expectations, they've consistently sold it out. Now I don't know if that means putting every butt in the seat like usual, but I think the interest of buying tickets is still there.
Well, I think people appreciate it, and I also think that the Texans were very smart to encourage tailgating, because back in Oilers days, you weren't allowed to tailgate.
Is that right?
And so they knew, okay, our product on the field is going to be a work in progress, but how do you create an identity? I've been very fascinated about seeing the Texans from the beginning to where they are now, because it's hard to build anything from scratch, whether you're talking about a football team or whatever. Like, there's no one right way to build a team. And so it's been interesting to see kind of the transition over time.
Now, how did your affiliation with the Chronicle, and I guess just as an overall
evolution,
captain of fandom, I guess, because that's what the one thing that's funny, I remember meeting you my first year here.
Yeah.
There's a banquet every year that
the draft luncheon.
Yeah, not the draft luncheon, but the preseason luncheon.
Yes.
There's a preseason luncheon, and I'm at a random table, and you're there. You're asking all these questions, and I'm like, who is this lady?
Who is this lady?
And how does she know, A, so much about my life, and B, how much does she know about all these teammates I have that I don't know about already? And then you noticed online, you obviously have a blog you do online.
Yes.
And everything. I guess, how did that begin? And I guess, how does it evolve for you?
Well, I mean, if you would have asked me years ago that this would happen, I would have never imagined in a million years. I mean, basically, I was very happy we had a team. In 2002, I was, season ticket holder from day one. 2002, I heard, hey, they're having this Ultimate Fan Contest, and you can get your name on the wall as an Ultimate Fan, and you get to run out of the tunnel with one of the Texan flags. And I'm like, that is cool. And they send you to the Super Bowl. And I'm like, that would be so cool. So I did that, and it was like 6 weeks after I had a baby. I'm showing up someplace. Yeah, it was lovely look. And I didn't win that year. I was in the semis, and then they had the contest every year. And I was in the finals 4 years in a row, and I got to run. I mean, it was so much fun because you're in the tunnel. The flags are heavier than they look. Like, I was actually sore the next day because you're doing all this business afterwards. And the year I won, I almost got run into by a Browns player because I'm doing this little flag thing, and they're all warming up before the game. It's
pretty funny.
It was absolutely fun. And then that year, the Super Bowl was in Miami, and they flew me out to Miami. And by that time, I was blogging. So I started writing for the Chronicle because I wasn't finding the kind of writing, like serious writing. And there's a lot of pot stirring writing.
Well, and that's what I was going to go to. The one thing I'll say about your blogs, and that obviously when you get to know you, you're a fan. You love the team, but generally I find people that are on the internet are generally negative people. Even the paper, even the Chronicle, I think writers tend to be negative. Not all of them, but I think some of them tend to be. But I feel like you've taken a different approach in the sense that you try to take a dispassionate look at the team. I think you try to find interesting stats, interesting people that do things like Football Outsiders that you're a big fan of, things like that, just to have a different approach. And I think people like that. I think people find that at least that's a different point of view.
Well, I guess the whole purpose of the blog was just a reaction to just a lot of, like, why is it that people are Christian in their day-to-day lives, but when it comes to the sports world, all of a sudden they're so negative and ugly and nasty about things. And I didn't think that was something that was necessary in just dealing with people, that you could be a fan, but at the same time, I've always found that the best fans are the ones who are realistic about things. And also, I don't like a lot of the know-it-all talk, because I think the wisest writing and the wisest thought is people who know what they don't know.
Sure.
And if you've had any exposure to what you guys go through in the back rooms and looking at film and stuff, most fans have no conception of all that goes into just putting together an NFL team, or the day-to-day of what you guys go through. And so I don't pretend like I know that, but I try to pull people in who know more about the subject, and just because I think if you know more about what's going on in the field, it makes it more fun to watch the game. Or if you know more about the people behind the mask, because you're wearing helmets. And
now in your real life, you're a lawyer.
Yes.
Correct. You graduated from University of Texas.
Yes.
Now, are you a UT fan?
Yes, I am.
So you generally go for them.
Yeah. I mean, my undergrad was Trinity, and
so you don't go for Trinity.
No, actually, they're better. They're a better football team than when I went there. They were more into tennis then. But yeah, I'm a UT fan. But I separate my college and my NFL affiliations.
I'm sure your your law background has had to help you with your writing, and I guess the overall. Because I know a lot of people that love to do it, but I think the grind kind of can take hold of them. I think it's tough for them.
Yeah, it's become easier for me to do it. I think once I started writing for AOL Sports for a while, it kind of got the process easier because it used to take me longer to do stuff. And now I have kind of a better sense of how I want to do things and what your style is, because it takes you a while to figure out, your voice.
Okay, wrapping up, we always ask every guest a trivia question.
Oh, no.
Okay, so we're going to ask you a trivia question right here.
Oh, no.
The movie Chariots of Fire featured two rivals competing in the 1924 Summer Olympics. Where were they held?
In Paris.
and she knows that because she was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that was the question she was ousted on. Let's take a look at that.
Oh, no.
The movie Chariots of Fire features two rivals competing in the 1924 Summer Olympics, held where? Amsterdam, Paris, Berlin, Stockholm.
Boy, that's going in the Wayback Machine. I've seen this movie, but it's been a long time. I think I'd like to do the 50-50 because I'm narrowing it down in my head, and I'd like to see if that answer's still there.
Fine. Computer, could you take away two of those wrong answers?
I believe the Olympics have been in both of those places. And I know the Olympics were in Germany before World War II. I really don't know.
Well, if you miss, you lose $32,000.
Yeah, and that's a lot of money. I know at least when I did litigation work, people often said that pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered. And I don't want to be greedy on this if it's just a guess and nothing is coming to mind. I think I'm going to take the $64,000.
Guess she's going to walk with $64,000. The answer is Paris. Paris. Remember Jesse Owens in the 36 Olympics? Good luck, kiddo.
Whole lot.
Nice. There you
Wow.
go.
All right, Steph Stradley on Who
Nice.
Wants to Be a
Very strange.
Your
Millionaire.
own posse, your Chippendale posse.
It's so strange to think, okay, I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Regis Philbin, and then I'm greeted off stage with male dancers because I was on this special episode called Ladies Night. And so I think back, it's like, did that actually happen? It's so strange.
Did you know that was going to happen?
No, they called me up. They go, you're going to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I could barely hear the guy because my pulse was so loud in my ear when they called me, because I'm like freaking out. And they're like, yeah, and it's a special episode. You're supposed to wear formal attire, and I'm like, what, ball gowns or what? Because no, just like if you're going out on a night on the town, and it's going to be this special ladies' night episode, and it's based on something they did in Britain, and they have the rights to the song, and na. And it was an amazing experience. They called me one week. I was there the next week, and they picked me up with a limo, and they took us out there. They had to approve our clothes, and I mean,
so leather mini skirts wouldn't have worked probably.
I'm sure they would be fine with that. But they did warn us ahead of time that the studio was very cold, and it was. It was the hardest part about the whole show, though, and it's not in the clip. They have the fastest finger buttons, and it's designed by the worst people ever because the buttons are small. You can't see the printout, and if you hold the button too long, it does a double hit, and so you have to type it really fast. You can't go back, and so a lot of times you would know the answer, but you wouldn't get it right. So in the practices, I did terrible, and I'm like, and so in the clip where I get it and I win the fastest finger, I'm freaking out. It's in the first part of the YouTube, and it's just, because I was like,
I'm going to come all the way to New York, and I'm going to be stuck in this stupid seat, and I'm not going to have a chance. And then I get it, and it was like.
How nervous were you? Because it's got to be hard to think clearly when you're
so
in that
nervous,
seat.
but you know, the best part about it is it was a very freeing experience because, you know, it's like national TV, and they have the camera this close to you, and the studio audience, and the music and lights. And I did it, and I got the 64,000, and I questioned myself, like, why didn't I say Paris? I knew that answer. And then I thought about it, it's like, you know what, if I can do this, I can do just about anything in my life as long as it doesn't involve actual physical pain. So it's been a very freeing experience. Nice. Like, okay, I can dress in silly clothes and run out the tunnel in Texans games. And, you know,
Steph Stradley,
it's just fun.
The Texans fan blogger for Cron.com, also an attorney and a longtime Texans fan, and writes about the Texans, very in-depth writing, and check her out on Cron.com. Our other guests tonight, if you're just joining us, ND Kalu, former NFL veteran from the Eagles, the Redskins, and the Houston Texans, and Dan DeArmond from BMC Software. Guys, appreciate you joining us for this edition of Not Your Ordinary Sports Show.
Clearly, I'm the low man on the totem pole here with the talent we have around here tonight.
When you're around Indy and Eric, it's hard not to feel like you're a little.
Well, I feel like this because I'm impressed. A lawyer, after you hear about the bar exam, can you kind of talk about that? My roommate, he studied law. He's an attorney now. And he just had horror stories about the bar exam. What was your experience?
Well, you know, the bar exams is kind of awful because you're tested on stuff basically, at least from my school, we didn't learn about half the stuff in the bar. So you go to this bar review course to learn all the stuff that you didn't learn, but you have to pass this test. So it's kind of nuts. And I met my future husband while studying for the bar exam. He came up to me at bar review class, and I'm reading something before it, and he goes, "Have you read all that?" And I'm like, "No." And I didn't find this out until
that was his pickup line?
That was his pickup line.
Well, married him right on the spot.
Yeah.
Well,
you're smart, you're attractive. That's all he had to say was,
we started studying together.
That's all I needed.
We started studying together, one thing led to another, but I didn't find out until our rehearsal dinner that he goes, "Oh yeah, I had been stalking you for a couple of weeks before that." It's like, really? Yeah.
Too late to get away, huh? Yeah. Too late to get away.
So he's around the corner,
invitations were out.
Right.
Some of those eyeballs I keep seeing around the curtain.
You have to scoot over. You're sitting too close.
Yeah.
No, so I have to say I probably had the most enjoyable experience anybody could have while studying for the bar exam, but I would never do that again.
How many times did you have to take it?
One.
Nice.
Well, yeah, and the nice thing is we both passed, because that was our big concern. It's like, what happens if one of us passes and the other one doesn't? And
awkward.
And our scores were pretty similar.
Oh,
and
no, but I'm cheering for you, honey.
Yeah, right.
what was nice is he had taken some of the classes I hadn't taken in law school, so it was a nice partnership.
Do y'all work together?
I do now with them. I practiced for a while, and then I had kids, and kids wasn't very, compatible with flying off all over the place. And so I quit my full-time job, and I help him with his law practice some. And what's nice is the flexibility from it. He does criminal defense law, which is much more exciting, like story-wise, than what I do. And because I know how to write fast, I do a lot of the behind-the-scenes, like if he needs me to write stuff, and I can write things in probably a third of the time. And he's a better trial lawyer. I mean, he's so good in trial, so it's
Do you get
nice.
paid by the word?
No. Community property.
There you go.
So it's a partnership.
I know on your blog this week you asked Texans fans if they had some questions
Yes.
for Eric Winston. Do you have those?
I do. Wait, hold on. Let me get at the secret compartment in this chair.
These, our furniture provided by our friends at Billiard Factory, billiardfactory.com. Your chance
Nice
to build
stuff
your
right
very
here.
own.
Nice stuff.
I'll tell you what, this is even part of the commercial. My whole playroom was from the Billiard Factory. They really hooked me up, and I paid for it, so again, I really appreciate it that I'm talking about it, and I paid it. But I got a stool for each team that I played with. So I have a Washington Redskins stool. They put the pool table there. Then they have the Eagles lighting.
So what you're saying is the party's at your house.
After party over there.
There we go.
You call it your man cave is called a playroom?
No, the pool room, pool table room. What do you know? The game room is what I mean.
There you go.
Hey, that's a man. I have 5 kids.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I was gonna say.
You don't have a room.
I don't exactly.
No, you got
I
no
just
room.
had visions of my kids' playroom becoming my man cave. So.
No,
it's
that's-
game
one
room.
day,
We
but
have
not
a
now.
Well, and
playroom.
even if you do have a playroom, they
It's-
don't want to be in this playroom. They want to be where you are, so their toys and stuff
Yeah.
are all
Oh,
Like
where
my
you
movie
are.
room. That was the
Yeah.
one thing I said, okay, this is daddy's spot. Nobody can come in here. Yeah, right.
Yeah, how'd that work
Yeah,
out
Yeah,
for
my
you?
3-year-old's looking at me like, I'm going to mess up that. I'm going to mess that up. And it's just like she said, I don't have a room. I have to go to the
Yeah.
office.
Can we
doesn't work
put
that way.
Dora on the big screen?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Steph. You had some questions.
Okay, now
from
this
fans.
one is actually related to the question that Indy asked earlier. This is from Dead Coach. I think he's not dead, though. One of the football cliches I hear a lot is that linemen like to run block more than pass block. Generally, the guy's saying that the announcer who's saying this is a quarterback, so what does he know about blocking? It seems like the line has to cover more ground in run blocking and has bigger pileups that expose them to injury more. I can see very few reasons why you'd like pass blocking more, especially if you're good at it. So do linemen in general prefer run blocking over pass blocking?
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, I think it just gives you more of a chance to be successful. It gives you a chance to be aggressive, get after.
Because you're going forward
defense.
versus.
And it gives you a chance also to dictate the pace of play to a certain degree. Always defenses have to be reactive in a certain stand. I think the best defensive coaches can get your defenses not to play reactive and somehow take the game to the offense. But at the same time, I think if you're a good offense, you're always dictating what kind of game it's going to be, what kind of tempo it's going to be. And I think run blocking is the only way to do that. I think it's tough to do that. I think it's near impossible to do that pass
What
blocking.
takes more of a physical toll on you, run blocking or pass blocking?
Run blocking.
Yeah.
For
I
most
mean, like,
pass block. You get into a lot of long pass block games, you don't feel nearly as bad after the game as you do run block.
I mean, the Broncos ran the ball 55 times. Those guys are going to be sore today.
Yeah, they're not. They're probably going to hurt a little bit, I would say.
Okay, CJ Scuba says, who is doing the play calling now? Is it Kubiak or is it Dennison? Not so much the opening script. I bet that's both of them, but during the game. I've heard both, that Kubiak is still calling from the sideline, but then it was speculated that it's been turned over to Dennison. What is...
Yeah, I have no idea, actually. I'm out there, and I'm doing my thing. I'm sure that just from in the past, they've always switched it back and forth, and who's hot and who's not, and kind of gone from there. So I have no idea who calls the plays, but whoever's doing it, I think, is doing a pretty decent job. I'd have to think that Dennison and Kubiak are probably switching off, and I wouldn't be surprised if Benton has a large say in what they're running in the run game too. What we're running in the run game.
Okay, Davey Boyce says, what is your opinion on the comparison of Foster versus Tate as far as runners from your perspective? What do you think
they're a little different. Foster is a guy I think that's smooth. I think he's a guy that can be a little bit more patient in the sense that he's not scared to stretch a play out a little bit more and hit the corner than trying to just jam it up in there. I think Tate's getting better at that. I think you saw him a couple times this past week.
Well, he had that
juke
stick move for the touchdown. That was nice.
Yeah, and that's impressive too. I think Tate is a little bit more power, but also I think his top speed's really well too. You haven't seen him break out yet, but he can go as well.
Due.
Yeah, he can go as well.
I think that's going to happen.
I think he's a big, thick guy. I think both of them. I don't think people realize how big Arian is either. Arian's a big guy too, for a running back. But
you said the top speed of Tate. Is he faster than Arian?
I have no idea. The thing is, you never see either of them getting caught. So
yeah, Arian seems to break
fast.
off more
80
yards.
yards. They both run over guys. I mean,
yeah.
that nice hit on, was it
They
Talib
both get
yesterday?
after him. They both go.
I think.
Oh no, but there was the other play at the end of the play. Foster goes, boom.
So, but I think Tate is a guy who's still learning some, but like you said, you like how he ducks his head. I think he gets a ton of yards after contact. Those are, I think, some of the small differences.
Okay, another question from Jeff S. J.J. Watt says that he likes to sneak peeks at the Texans' offense and that he sneaks peeks on the Jumbotron. What do guys do when their side is off the field? You can talk on this too. I know that the quarterbacks are always studying screenshots, but what are you guys doing?
Well, there's screenshots for us. There's tight copies for us that we look at just in the box where they're lining up, what they're doing right after the snap. But I always get caught watching the game too. I like to watch our defense play, so I'm up there watching, seeing what everyone's doing, and sometimes hey, listen, I got to change something, But sometimes there's not some things to be changed. Some things are good, or hey, we saw that, or you had 3 and out possibly of just pass plays where the protection was good. So I'd say, hey, just keep this up, and then you kind of just watch the game from there. So, if things need to be changed, obviously we're not watching it, but I watch the game a lot. Watch the defense playing a ton.
Good questions from your fans, and we're glad to have them be a part of the question process. Plus, you can get your questions in on Twitter. Our Twitter feed brought to you by Verizon. All you have to do is send your questions to Eric, ND, Steph, or Dan DeArmond over here at Thebus TV. That's at the Bus TV. And we'll be getting to your questions off the Twitter feed as the evening rolls on. Packers down here trying to put some more points on the board as we're just past the 2-minute warning here. Vikings, Ponder got picked off on their last drive. They've moved the ball decently, but this is not a good spot to be in if you're Minnesota, facing a Packers defense that you're facing one of the best offenses in the NFL, plus you got a defense that can really dial up the heat if you're down by 17 points.
Yeah, that's, you never want to be down 17, but when you're at someone's place and the other team has the ball that's known for scoring quickly and a lot, that's even worse. So they're in a little bit of trouble here. I think you got to find some way just to get into halftime. They've got to have a stop here. They can't let any more points on the board. Get into halftime. Find a way to regroup and come back, get an early score in the game, and get it within a couple scores where you can make a run at this late.
Do the Packers, they've only run for 28 yards tonight. They really don't have a big running game.
Yeah, that's their running game
right
there.
Yeah, those little short passes to Starks. Do the Packers need more of a running game this year? When is it overrated or not?
I think it depends on the team. I think the Packers have the tools where they don't have to have necessarily a big run.
Although
I will say that not having Chad Clifton in there, I think, scares me a little bit, from the sense that if they go up against a team that can really get after the passer, that can hurt you, I think that's going to be tough. Everyone makes out the weather to be a big thing coming up. Is it going to be a big deal? Can Rodgers throw? Yeah, I would assume so. I don't know. Brady doesn't seem to have that much of a problem throwing in the snow. It seems like.
But he's going to get killed if he doesn't run the ball. They have a 17-point lead, and they're throwing the ball.
It's a 2-minute drill too, though. They're trying to get the ball.
But even so, I mean, everybody talks about the Packers last year. Like, look at all the guys that they had injured, and they went to the Super Bowl. Well, they missed Aaron Rodgers for a game with a concussion. If you're not running the ball, you're putting your quarterback at unnecessary risk. And I don't care how good the Packers are. They wouldn't go to the Super Bowl last year if Aaron Rodgers was more concussed than he ended up being.
Well, Ryan Grant also came on strong at the end of last year. It was a big part of their Super Bowl run. Now, I mean, Starks has kind of taken over the lead back role, but it doesn't look like their offense is slowing down at all. I just wonder, as you get into those games, as you mentioned, where the weather's a bigger factor in January, and you're playing, teams that maybe can move the ball just as well as you can, if you need to have that running game to fall back on.
Now, Starks had the good playoff run, right?
Was it Starks?
Starks did. Ryan
got
Grant
He got hurt for the second game.
Right.
Let's go, Rob. Let's go.
Hey, who needs their running game when you got Aaron Rodgers?
Rodgers.
It was Starks who came on at the end. Then
But remember,
I forgot also.
But everybody thinks that this has been the Green Bay team for the last 3 years. It hasn't.
No.
They weren't putting up points like this last year. This is something that they found during the playoffs, that they were spreading teams out more. They were trying to be a balanced team a large part of last year.
And they couldn't do it.
And they weren't. It wasn't working. They couldn't run the ball effectively. They weren't running it like they were when Ryan Grant was healthy. And they went to more of a spread, but they weren't putting up, like I said, they won a lot of games, 17, 14, 14, 10.
It's handy to be able to run the ball and eat clock when you have a huge lead.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that they can do it. And they can get away with it maybe if they're playing a Vikings team that can't score, but maybe down the road they're going to play a team that's not.
I tell you what,
doesn't have a rookie quarterback.
I don't know when the Bears play them next. But gosh, they're playing well right now. And you got to think the Bears style of defense always gives them some problems. Like cover two, keep everything in front of you. has made them earn it every one. They haven't put up a lot of points. And the way the Bears are running the ball now with Forte and Cutler doesn't seem like he's making nearly the same amount of mistakes.
Well, and they're protecting him a
little
better.
Smart. They're protecting better. I think it's protecting because some of the run stuff. But, you know, all that together. I'm not saying the Bears. I'm not saying the Bears are going to overtake them by any means, but
although
it's a different game now.
That's a hard
it's
thing
hard,
to do.
easier said than do. Yeah, because
I'll kick away from him. Well, okay, how do you kick away from him, but you don't kick it out of bounds,
and,
or you leave it too short?
Right.
I mean, it's one of those. Like, oh, why are they kicking? Well, I mean, hello, it's not easy.
Right.
I'm glad you said that, especially with punters. You know, and I think it's tougher to control the ball as a punter than a kicker. I'm not sure. I haven't done either, but you're absolutely right. They always just say, why they kick it to him? Well, you only have 50 yards to keep that ball in, and just like you said, you can't kick it out of bounds or they get the ball at the 35 or 45, I forgot.
40-yard line.
The 40-yard line. So it's not as easy as it sounds. And when you kick it up and high, he's going to run to it anyway. So it's easier said than done, just like you said.
Although the Texans in the Cleveland Browns game, after the one Cribbs return, there were no more kicks going down to him on the goal line. I mean, that's respect for a guy who holds the all-time record for kickoff.
Well, smart too. We knew the Cleveland wasn't going to have too many drives against us.
Right.
Yeah. And that was the only way they're going to get back in the game. You take the ball out of his hands and you make the team
make him earn it.
Yeah. Have your matchup that you like.
Our kickers are hitting people pretty hard.
Yeah.
How about
and Hartman yesterday?
They sure can tackle.
Yeah, they can.
Our kickers can beat up your kickers.
That's right.
I like the way Hartman kind of slingshot himself around and he threw him down. And then the funniest part is you looked at him. And then he looked at him for a second and then he walked away and he was like, it was kind of like a walk up. He was like, yeah, I got it.
You're like, really?
It was
okay,
so funny.
Back in the bus, punter. Back in the bus.
So funny.
The most hilarious thing is when the Texans picked him up, it's like, okay, well, who is this guy? Rookie, da-da-da. And the only video of him is one and his little kicking video that's kind of like almost like a tryout video on YouTube. And for part of the video, he doesn't have a shirt on, right? And it's it is what it is. So I put this on Twitter. I was like, okay, here's our shirtless rookie punter. All of a sudden, all these women Twitter followers like, yeah, we want him to make the team.
Forget Brad Maynard. We want Brad Hartman.
We want the shirtless punter.
The shirtless punter.
Is Indy, in all your years in the league, have you ever seen kickers that, I've seen Neil Rackers in training camp work out with the linebackers on some of their drills.
You know what? They're always trying to prove that they belong.
That they're real players.
Always prove that they're tough enough.
Yeah.
Every kicker since high school I've been around always proved that they're
David Akers was one of the best kickers I've been around, and he was like a black belt in karate. He was always trying to wrestle guys in the locker room. Everyone was like, all right, you're tough.
Stop touching me.
At least let me get out the shower.
We're not talking Penn State here.
No, that's not even worth joking about. I was not thinking about that. But, when, they're always just trying to prove. And then even in college, when I was at Rice, our punter had the biggest arms on the team because he was just constantly being there. Tucker Phillips. They're always
a football player, too, right?
Girls for the girls.
Yeah. Halftime, and the Packers up comfortably as we get ready for the halftime. Eric is needed in the Chicken Kitchen Lounge. He's going to go grab a bite there at Chicken Kitchen. I want to remind you, you can build your very own man cave like we have here on the set of Not Your Ordinary Sports Show at billiardfactory.com. That's billiardfactory.com. Check out their website. Of course, they've got a lot of locations in and around the Houston area if you're watching us in the Houston area. Pool tables, barroom furniture, home theater seating. You can check it out all in their stores or online at billiardfactory.com.
Or at ND's house.
Yeah,
come over to
this. We need a picture
I probably
of
should.
this.
I also got an arcade. They sold me one of those arcade. It's the typical 1980s arcade.
Yeah, what game?
But what they do, they put that computer chip in there, so there's like 60 games in there.
Oh,
really?
So I have
sweet.
Frogger,
Nice.
both Pac-Mans, a game 1942. Is where
You got Defender. Game. Defender was my game.
Gallagher's on there. All the games from back when you used to walk to the mall. Donkey Kong.
Really?
I didn't realize how tough Donkey Kong was until I started playing again. And what really irks me, I try to get my kids to play with me, and after like 30 seconds, they're like, "What is this? This is so."
It's not
it's like stick figures. They're used to the Kinect.
Oh yeah. They're like, Mom, this is what they used to do.
Yeah, and I thought they were going to be all excited playing with me, Frogger, and after like 30 seconds, they're like, can I go back on the connector?
Dad, this is boring.
Yeah.
Where'd you get this, out of a museum?
Right.
And we can't play with our friends online on
Yeah.
Frogger? That's no fun. All right, I want to switch gears to the college game real quick while we're in halftime. It looks like the BCS championship game is going to be LSU against Oklahoma State, the LSU fan over here. Do you think that's going to happen? And what happens if Oklahoma State loses? Do we get LSU Alabama again? Do we get LSU Oregon, even though Oregon lost to them? I mean, we're looking at a rematch of the national championship game if Oklahoma State doesn't win.
Well, for LSU personally, I like the way it's lined up. Obviously, we won it in 03 in New Orleans. We won it in 07 in New Orleans. It's 11. It's time for us to win it again. So not being greedy, I'll take a national championship every 4 years. I think, there's a lot of people that would love to see that contrast, with that tough defense that LSU has versus that open attack that Oklahoma State has. And I guess we kind of saw that when LSU was playing Alabama and Oklahoma State was running up and down the field the other day because our game was that defensive struggle, and they were running up and down the field. So I think a lot of people would get a kick out of that. I just know that, following LSU for all these years and, give Les Miles a week like he did against Nick and Alabama, or give him a month to prepare for it, I'd put my money on him. But, if one of those teams lose, and hopefully it's Oklahoma State. Sorry, Cowboy fans.
They still have OU on the schedule.
And it's in Stillwater.
Right. They have it at home this year.
They've got it home.
Right.
But I think it'd be almost Armageddon again with those one loss. I mean, I think a lot of people, in the past, they don't want to see any rematches. But at the end of the day, if you're thinking Alabama's still the best team, best one-loss team, go do it. But Oregon's playing extremely well. Clearly, they're a different team than when LSU played them in Dallas. I'll take the win, whatever I'll get it. But James is playing a lot better now. He was a little hurt in our game, so I think it'd be an interesting game.
Well, Oregon has vaulted back into that consideration. They handled Stanford. The speed was incredible.
They did.
That was
impressive.
Yeah.
I thought that game would look more like the LSU game, where LSU was the more physical team and was able to counter that speed with more just all-out strength.
Yeah.
Because Stanford's they're more of they're not a finesse team, they're a physical team. But man, Oregon in the open field, those guys, Darren Thomas and their receivers, I mean, you couldn't catch those guys once they got in the open field.
And that would make for a great game. When you look at their offense, the way they're hitting on all cylinders now against LSU's defense, when you see LSU Alabama, if you're a guy like me, you enjoy the defensive struggle. I thought it was a great game, but people were tweeting how boring it was. And I don't know, this is how football is.
Pretty good. Just enough offense to keep people interested.
This is what actual football is supposed to look like.
Exactly, that's what I thought.
I mean,
so
we learned two things in that game. Both defenses are great, and LSU's kickers are better than Alabama's. That's what we learned.
And speaking of that kicker, I wonder what it's like on campus.
Oh.
I went to a small school. Football was kind of whatever, second nature. But to be the kicker in that game.
They live and die on those campuses.
I wonder if he's walking in class with a bag on his head. And it's a shame. I actually feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Does it take away, though, from the national championship if it's a rematch? If they've already played, I kind of want to see somebody, even though I think LSU and Alabama are probably the best two teams in the country, I don't know that I want to see that game again. Right. LSU went in and won on Alabama's home turf. To me, that says LSU deserves the shot at the national title, and Alabama doesn't. But I have a feeling that's how it's going to end up if Oklahoma State loses.
I don't want to play them again, just because give Saban and that defense and time to prepare for LSU again. They know what they're going to do. But I agree that give somebody else a shot. LSU's going to beat them anyway.
Now, even though I'm not an alum, I'm rooting for University of Houston to make a show
which is
get
fantastic,
a chance.
right?
They are in line for a BCS bowl bid thanks to Boise State's loss.
College game day coming to U of H for the first time ever against SMU
I think
this
that's
weekend.
great.
Yeah.
Does it detract at all from the fact that Houston, despite their 10-0 record, their schedule is not the most challenging?
Well, I mean, who wants to play them? I mean, who out of conference wants to play them?
Right.
I mean, that's always been the issue that schools like U of H have. Nobody wants to play them.
Right.
And Case Keenum's season's just, I mean, given how they were last year and how they are this year, that's just very impressive to me.
Yeah.
Just what a difference. I mean, and schedule aside, that's some
pretty big point totals.
I have no doubt they can score with anybody in the nation. Can their defense stop anybody?
Yeah.
Right.
It's in a way, it's maybe on a smaller scale, it's a lot like Oklahoma State. They can score a lot of points, but can they keep the other team from scoring with them? Houston, I don't want to take anything away from what they've done, because an undefeated season in any realm is impressive, but that schedule is going to hurt them in terms of national respect. And I want to get Eric's thoughts when he comes back in on Case Keenum for Heisman. It's almost like it's being held against Case that their schedule isn't that good, because to me, his numbers are the best of any player. The best college football player in the nation is right here in Houston.
And not only that, it's kind of when I'm defending the Houston Texans, I say the same thing when I defend U of H. Believe it or not, I'm always rooting for U of H, except for once every year when they're beating up on my Rice Owls. But, they do what they're supposed to do against bad teams. Against my school, they put up 70 points. Against, was it Tulane or –
Tulane 73.
Yeah, it's Tulane. They put 73 points.
That's
that's what a good team. Yeah, that's what a good team does against bad teams. But I'm like you. The schedule's going to hurt them. It's hard to respect when you're on the East Coast, when you're on the West Coast, saying, okay, what did U of H do? Well, they beat Rice. They beat Tulane. People don't know and respect that on the East Coast or West Coast just because they don't get the national exposure. But it's going to be very interesting, because I think SMU. They want to be that spoiler. They have just enough talent to be the spoiler. So U of H, they better not be looking past the Mustangs.
Now, I'll tell you this. We talk about being LSU, but in spirit of full disclosure, I graduated from SMU. No. So you stole my thunder. The Mustangs are going to shock the world and knock off the Cougs. Sorry, Cougs fans.
It might happen.
The Cougars have 3 of the toughest games on their schedule left. They have, assuming they win their remaining 2 regular season games, which are SMU, then at Tulsa. They would go to the Conference USA Championship game and play most likely Southern Miss. I mean, with the Cougars schedule, those are 3 of their probably 4 or 5 toughest games, and they're all in the last 3 weeks. So they still have a road ahead of them. For those of you watching at home, if you're not familiar, the top school from a non-automatic bid conference, and we're talking about Mountain West, Conference USA, the smaller conferences, the top school that wins their conference championship, if they're ranked in the top 12, are guaranteed a spot in a BCS Bowl. And as luck would have it, that may be the Sugar Bowl against Alabama, is what I think a lot of the projections have Houston doing. They win out.
Good luck there.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Or I think the other one I saw today was the Fiesta Bowl against OU, which that'd be an entertaining game. Yeah. It might be a lot like Oklahoma-Boise State from a few years ago, where there was 90 points scored in the game.
And speaking of OU, what happened to Texas Tech? And, if you're just now tuning in or you're not a big follower of college football, Texas Tech knocks off OU, and they just get drilled after that. It wasn't even like they lost close games because they had the target on their back, but they've just been getting a massacre.
They've been outscored by 100 points in the games since they beat
Talk
OU.
about a hangover.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're still hungover.
That's a real hangover. That's hangover part 3.
Right. Come to the theater near you.
Yeah. I mean, I can't explain
face
that.
tattoo on that one.
Yeah,
right.
I can't explain that. And I was watching that game, and I remember thinking, Texas Tech is for real. They weren't intimidated by OU. I felt like they were playing above their heads, but you saw the talent, and I'm confused to what's been happening since then.
The big game from this last weekend was Stanford and Oregon. Andrew Luck, let's set aside the Heisman talk. He didn't look like, to me, a great, a clear-cut #1 pick, the best prospect since John Elway, some people are saying. Are there some flaws in his game that he needs to take care of? Because in that game, he wasn't super.
Well, what I will say, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've seen about 6 of his games, this was the first time he didn't look like that guy. And he is human. Even Trent Richardson's one of the best running backs that I've seen in the last 5 years. But I've seen some games where he didn't look like the guy that I've seen, the majority of the time I watch a game. This was the only time Andrew Luck looked human, so I wouldn't be that concerned. I still think he's one of the hottest prospects since Peyton Manning.
Although I got to tell you, the funniest tweet came from SEC guy recently that said that
we're familiar with him.
If Andrew Luck played in the SEC, there wouldn't be any of this suck for luck talk. The thought being that if he played SEC ball, I mean, you look at Peyton Manning, He played definitely against some good defenses and showed himself well. I mean, does Andrew Luck look the same if he's playing in the SEC?
You're telling me though. I understand what he's saying, and
he's SEC
some of his
guy.
stuff is
Right.
tongue in cheek.
SEC, but is it totally tongue in cheek?
But,
I mean,
but is Andrew Luck? I mean, if you put him on Georgia like Matt Stafford was on Georgia, I think he'd be just as. I mean, he wouldn't be. He wouldn't have the passing numbers because in the SEC you don't pass like that.
Yeah.
Or most schools anyway.
That's true. They like to run the ball, pound it.
But the physical tools would still be the
although
same.
I
right?
think it's I don't know. I think part of this is the hype machine. When you have 24/7 sports talk, you have to pick the guy. Like, here is the guy, and I think it's unfortunate that there's that kind of pressure. I mean, in 2005, it was the big discussion is, the Texans are playing in the Bush Bowl and against the 49ers, and whoever loses this game
gets Reggie Bush.
Gets Reggie Bush, and we know how that turned out. I mean, I think it's unfortunate to put that much, like, this guy is the can't miss, because there is no can't miss. I mean, a lot of it is fit for a particular team, and a lot of it is just, it's a violent game.
And I think a lot of the media outlets, they're just lazy. It's easy to not do your homework and say, okay, Andrew Luck, he's the best. I mean, what happened to really studying players, really checking Division I AA? There's a guy that nobody has mentioned that's probably going to have a better rookie year than anybody we're thinking of right now. And my point is, there's so much talent out there. And if you go to every roster, not every player is from a big-time SEC school. Right. If you look at the starting quarterbacks, and I don't know, I'll probably do this when we get off air, and check to see what conference each starting quarterback is from. I would not be surprised if the majority of them are not from SEC. I just think she talked about the hype machine. There's a huge hype machine when it comes to the SEC conference, and for good reason. I believe where they win the last 3 championships have been from 5. Excuse me. I should have asked you.
There's going to be
the
6
last
now.
5, and it is going to be 6. But it takes a different animal to play in the NFL and to last.
We won't talk about the LSU quarterback.
Yeah, there you go.
Wait, which one?
Which one?
We have many of them.
The syrup sipper.
Well, we won't talk about
great
him.
physical talents.
Yeah, talk about. But I think, you played a game and you have a better appreciation than I am. I mean, just watching Jamarcus play in college and in high school is different. I mean, that goes back to the strong arm versus making the throws. Can you make the throws, accuracy, stuff like that. Jamarcus had great skilled people around him. They're all playing on Sundays now. But you look at Andrew Luck. I mean, he can make those throws. He didn't have the biggest can like Jamarcus. I mean, I don't think it's important like I saw Jamarcus do.
Smart.
He's extremely smart. I mean, being around his dad and
smart
things like that. And plus, he's a Houston kid.
And he's athletic.
Stratford High School. I got to do a shout out. My son is a senior at Stratford, so he and his offensive line teammates and the whole team, they won their first playoff game this past week. So I got to give a shout out to Andrew and his teammates. Go Spartans!
And Andrew Luck. I mean, I don't think there's any question he's going to be the #1 pick in the draft, even though he didn't look maybe as impressive as he had the rest of the year in that Oregon game. Back to the U of H for a second. How big is this for the Cougars to have College Game Day coming in for this UH-SMU game? This is something the Cougars have been clamoring for. Hey, we're 10-0. Why aren't we getting any national attention?
Well, I think that's the biggest difference between college and NFL. Like, people get upset. Oh, people aren't talking about the Texans. Well, there's no BCS. It doesn't matter what people think about the Texans. It's just wins and losses. But it does matter in college football.
Sure.
Because there is no playoff, and you have to kind of impress people in some kind of, hype machine way to get a chance at playing for something.
Right.
So, it matters. It matters.
And for them, it gives them credibility. I mean, actually, right, wrong, or different, having College Game Day here and the nation's college football eyes are focused on them and what they're doing. It happened with Boise State the first time the College Game Day went out there. So
and you just never know.
You never know. Stranger things have happened.
It's certainly a big deal. I'm glad that U of H is getting some recognition. I just wish that, if they even played a decent schedule, and they'll play a better schedule when they move to the Big East. And that brings up another thing. It's better.
Yes, better
than anything.
CSU.
Right. The ironic thing is the Cougars, they're going to the Big East because it gives them a shot at a BCS bowl game, and now here they are. They have the inside track for a BCS bowl game
Now, they
without ever
guaranteed
leaving.
the BCS bowl. I thought they have to get in the top 6 to get it.
They had to be in the top 12 of the
top
BCS
12,
rankings, and then there's another caveat: if they're between 12 and 16, there's still a good chance that they make it in. And
Because they're the top.
but they have to win
top
out.
They have to win
BCS
everything.
division.
Right,
Non-conference
non-automatic
champion,
bid.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And it's it's good for them, but I fear for the Cougars if they're playing Alabama in the national or in the
That might
in the
not be.
Sugar Bowl.
That might not be very pretty for them. But
We all thought that though with Utah. And Alabama went out there and just
That's
laid
right. They
down.
laid
They
an
were like,
egg. Yeah.
we don't even want to be here. They're like, I'd rather go back to Bourbon Street.
A lot of them probably did.
Yeah, I don't think the Utah team spent much time on Bourbon Street.
No.
I guess that would be BYU, though. That probably is a little even cleaner than Utah.
But Utah's probably not too far behind.
No.
Yeah. Hey, we were talking about the Heisman race, Eric. To me, I mean, Andrew Luck certainly is the #1 pro prospect, but after that game against Oregon, I wonder if he's the shoe-in for the Heisman Trophy.
They
and
always
then I don't know who
against
steps
Oregon.
in front of
They
him.
always struggle against Oregon. For whatever it is, they always struggle. I think it's that whole team speed factor I think Stanford really struggles with for some reason. But, he's obviously playing well. I think it's kind of I wonder, too, how much – you go back to 97, and they gave it to Charles Woodson, which was deserving, but they kind of didn't give it to Peyton Manning. And while Charles Woodson's had an unbelievable career in the pros, like we were talking about, I mean, Peyton Manning's one of the top 5, maybe best players of all time, definitely top 10. I wonder, there's always that he probably should have won the Heisman. It'll look better if Peyton Manning was, say, Heisman winner Peyton Manning. You wonder if that's going to play into some voters' mind. The problem I have with the Heisman now is there's too many voters. Like 2,500 voters that vote for the Heisman.
Isn't there one company that's doing an ad campaign that they're giving away their Heisman vote to in some contest?
Exactly, and that's the sad part. It'll be always funny because we've always had Heisman winners on the Texans.
Right.
Always.
Yeah. Right.
Ron Dane for a couple years, and Leinart now, and I always ask him, who you voting for? And Ron Dane would always answer this: I'm just voting for a running back. He's always voting for a running back. He's not. He refused to vote for anybody but a running back. And that's just kind of, I like the fact that they give former winners a chance to vote.
Yeah.
But you look at the list of some people that have votes. I mean, it's not crazy to say, and I don't mean this as kind of it's not crazy to say that, Robert, you would have a vote, or Steph, that you would have a vote.
Sure.
That'd be
because there's a lot of people out there that probably have less credentials than either two of you, and they have votes for some reason for the Heisman Trophy. It's just shocking. I think it diminishes the grandeur of the trophy.
Yeah, but then again,
it's almost like electing a president. They're like, well, the Pacific hasn't reported yet. the West Coast hasn't.
The same thing
polls close at 8 o'clock,
but the
and we're not
same thing
there
goes
yet.
with the various polls that are done for just ranking teams, like a coaches poll. Are the coaches actually watching these games?
No, well, I heard the athletic directors actually fill it out for the coaches.
Yeah,
and it's obvious the coaches, they're not watching every single game. They're watching film of their next opponent.
I mean, that whole system's messed up.
Yeah.
So who do you think's going to win it? You think Luck? Is he still the favorite? In a year when there's no clear cut.
Who do you think the top 5 are?
Well, until Boise State lost, I thought Kellen Moore had a real chance. Trent Richardson certainly belongs up there.
Wheaton's getting a lot of run now at Oklahoma State.
Trent Richardson would have won it. He's not going to win it now that they lost LSU.
His numbers aren't outstanding. Yeah. He plays in the toughest conference in football.
They're not going to be.
There's no clear-cut favorite this year, it seems.
Like I said, I think you end up going back to Luck. I think
that's the easy choice.
I think they're going to look at that and they're going to say Luck. And the thing that's I think West Coast benefit is that the West Coast votes, they're always like, we're voting a West Coast guy because the East Coast always snubs. And the East Coast never looks at it like that. So the East Coast looks at it and say, okay, I think Andrew Luck's the best player, and I'm going to vote for him. And the West Coast to just say, they don't think it like that. They're like, he's the best player on the West Coast, so I'm voting for him. So they get both sides of it. I remember, and you also got to see, sometimes you have 2 players on the same team that kind of, we had that my freshman year, Dorsey and McGahee took away from each other, and Carson Palmer ended up winning it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was kind of.
Vince Young deserved it in 05 or 06. When was it? When Leinart got it? Or when
Matt,
no,
Reggie Bush.
Yeah,
Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
You can't say that was that bad of a snub. Reggie Bush's number was.
Well, no,
they're talking about.
Although you know what, Vince Young that year was sat a lot of times in the second half of games because UT was taking care of fools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have
USC
had.
didn't blow anybody
I mean,
up
if
that
you
year.
if you looked at his numbers from both rushing and throwing, they were absurd numbers, and he wasn't playing 4 quarters.
You think Reggie Bush was playing 4 quarters that year?
No, well, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you're giving
I just
the
remember watching him at like a 4-game stretch, and he never got tackled for a less than 10-yard gain.
Yeah, but he was also not. He couldn't run between the tackles.
Well, that's why it's a 55-yard field, or 53-yard field wide, or whatever.
And they had the fat guy to be their between the tackles runner.
Lindell White.
Lindell White. Yeah.
On
Hey,
the tequila diet.
Coming up,
Yeah.
Coming up this week on Thursday, it's a special birthday for a special right tackle.
Hey.
We have a very special delivery for
Holy
him,
cow.
Sweet.
Happy
courtzy
birthday.
of Melinda Boulette. Can't wait
How'd
to
you
eat
know
these.
how'd you know Brownies were my favorite?
You're an offensive lineman. It's not a hard thing.
Took a
Oh,
wild
nice.
guess.
Wow.
What do you think you like? Chocolate
Beer,
or chocolate?
brownies.
Those are basic
Can't go
food
wrong.
groups.
Let's go with chocolate.
Yeah.
And then we'll put some icing on top of it.
Then
That'll
we'll
go.
put more.
He'll appreciate that.
Nice of them to do it on
That's
the bye
awesome.
week too.
That's
You're going to be
awesome.
off.
Oh,
Get
nice.
to hang
Don't have to
out.
worry about the weigh-in.
And another touchdown.
And the Packers
That's
score
something else.
again.
Well, let me try it out here. I don't want to get away.
Of course.
A little early birthday present.
I'm good, Melinda. Thank you.
This is delicious.
Very good.
This is awesome.
Yeah, you going to share? No, I'm not going to eat off of yours.
Awkward.
I'll have, I think I'll take one from over here.
Yeah,
Looks a
yes.
little- looks a little safer on
Good,
this end.
more for me.
Good job.
Ooh, these are like fudge.
Wow, that's really good.
I'm saving mine.
Not rich.
Fourth quarter.
No fat.
Fourth quarter?
Fourth quarter.
So how old are you going to be?
Don't wait too long.
That's right. They may not
Like I
last.
said, it's the off week.
What are you, 29 again? 28?
Yep, I'll be 28. Getting old, man.
Yeah, that's right.
old. I remember when I turned 25, I was like, oh, God. And now it's like 30 is just staring me right in the face. That ain't good.
Ah.
Okay. Being 46, yeah, okay, whatever. What? I'll eat to that.
So you got any special plans for the birthday?
I'm going to be here on my couch. Every off week for the last 5 years, I've always gone somewhere. And every Sunday on the plane ride back, I always say to myself, God, I wish I didn't go anywhere.
Well, because it's kind of an
And
issue.
I'm always like more tired coming back. I'm like, God, I need to get some sleep. And you're like, it was just an off week. I know, I was tired. I saw everybody. I wouldn't see friends in Miami, everything, go see a game, go do this, go do that. Then you're like, God, that wasn't relaxing at all. So I'm looking forward to spending some time here with my kids and actually see my wife a little bit. And
So in other words, you're
just
getting
hang out.
old.
I am. I told you, I'm getting old. I'm getting old. It's sad.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So,
28. Let's see. That
Yeah,
was-
wow.
It's a while back for me.
I don't
Even
remember
for
that.
me, it's a while
Yeah,
back.
my older brother turned 30 this year. He's turning 31 coming up after my birthday. And we had to have a long phone conversation. I had to walk him off that edge. Don't do it. It's just 30. Don't do it. You say that now, but you're only 27. I'm like, yeah, it's still, it's quite okay.
What they say, the 40's the new 30.
That's right.
Here's hoping.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay-Z.
Here's hoping.
Yeah,
30's
exactly, right.
Here's hoping 30's not the new 20. I don't think my liver can take it. Another round of this? That's not good.
Well, you know you're getting old when you're staying home for the bye week
Yeah,
on your couch.
that's when you
right?
know it's bad.
You're getting past the age of being able to bounce back from those
Yeah.
late nights.
Yeah, that's just not the same anymore.
Yeah.
Like I said.
Next thing you know, you'll be walking around with a walker and
Already used my kid's stroller to keep me up.
the Packers score again. This game is not looking too good for the Vikings and Christian Ponder. Good news is we still have 2 one-on-one segments to go. And we have our third quarter one-on-one segment coming up with Eric sitting one-on-one with a guy he's battled in the trenches many times on the practice field former Texan ND Kalu as they get ready for our one-on-one segment. Let's check out ND's show Radio Faces with another former guest of ours, John McClain.
This is where we go, the quick drill with ND. So what do you got today?
The art of the stiff arm. We all saw the amazing run from Marshawn Lynch, and the one thing that I just remember from that run was that brutal stiff arm, and it got me to thinking about stiff arms. And though I never played running back, I do know a little bit about stiff arm because I've been stiff armed.
I played running back in junior high.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm sure you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when we talk about the stiff arm. And just as I show you, there's no elaborate technique that goes on with the stiff arm. You have to be strong, and it has to be about timing. And what I mean by that, if I'm the running back and you're the defender, and I'm trying to run to get positive yards, and you're coming to tackle me, all you literally do is just stick your arm out there and you lock your elbow, hence the name stiff arm. And from that, it makes it very hard for you to get a nice, clean tackle. And either I'm going to break the tackle and keep on running, or as you come and I stiff arm, you still might get a chance to wrap me up, but I'm going to fall forward for some extra yards, all because of this one little stiff arm. And right now I have longer arms than you do, but it also works for a guy that has shorter arms. So right now you play the running back, and I'm coming to tackle you. And the reason it works, though I have longer arms and I'm taller than John, is because as a defensive player, I'm trying to get my body into his. And if he stiff arms me at the right time, it keeps me from getting my helmet into his chest.
See, I'm holding that ball.
See, there you go. Ooh,
you're not getting my ball.
What you been doing? You been doing some push-ups? Baylor
Bear
strength.
I'm up to 2.
So that is the art of the stiff arm. And for the Houston fans, know that Arian Foster is one of the best stiff arm artists in the NFL.
John looked pretty agile there.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so he looked like he had a nice. You see him bounce off of you right when he tried to stiff arm.
Right.
ND Kalu here. Thanks so much for being here. Going one-on-one like we've gone so many times in the past.
That's right.
In these practices. Now you grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, but ended up coming to San Antonio. What was growing up in Baltimore like? I guess, and then. I guess you were born there, but then grew up in San Antonio.
Right. I was born in Baltimore, and when I was 6 weeks old, I told my parents to get me to Texas as soon as possible. So
all I know, talking at 6 weeks already.
Yeah, it's a Nigerian. So at 6 weeks, I moved to San Antonio. So all I know is pretty much San Antonio, and it was, Texas, typical Texas childhood. Played a lot of street football, a lot of smear the queer in the yards. Had a great childhood, and just spent most of my time outside being a kid.
So from San Antonio, playing high school football there, you go to Rice. Where's the road that you didn't travel? I mean, where were the other offers? Do you have other offers? Where were you thinking about going?
You know what, my dream school was Oklahoma, and I remember my sophomore year, I got a letter from OU, and I told my parents I'm going to Oklahoma, and both my parents are educators. And they
what year is this? What years were you in high school?
I was from 90 to 93.
So they were actually still good then.
They were good, yes.
And then they got good again.
Right. They were big time.
So the John Blake era was like the mid-'90s. You actually would have hit that one perfectly.
That's actually who recruited me.
Oh, okay.
That's who recruited me.
That's why you liked him so much.
Oh, he was a great recruiter on the phone.
That's what North Carolina thought too.
Yeah, yeah, and my parents are educators. They're from Nigeria, so they really weren't too impressed with people's football programs. And I was all about the OUs and Miamis. And I remember one day it was just getting out of hand because I was the #1 recruit out of San Antonio, so the letters were coming in. And I just finally sat my parents down and said, you know what, if both of y'all could choose where I was going to go, where would y'all choose? And they both said Rice at the same time. And I was just like, well, it looks like I'm going to Houston.
So you chose you didn't want to go to Rice, but that's where you chose because your parents wanted to go.
Right, but I understood the importance of going to a Rice. If I didn't make it to the NFL, I felt like it would pave the way for a bright future, having a Rice degree in Texas. So I understood why they wanted me to go there, and I understood the benefit. And if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would choose Rice again.
I think you made a good choice.
I appreciate it.
Everything ended up working out all right.
Yeah, we beat the University of Texas.
Now you had a fun career in the sense that you played for a lot of teams, but at the same time they were really good teams.
Right.
And in Philadelphia, you played on a lot of really good teams. Then you go to Washington, and you played on a couple of good teams in Washington, right?
The division,
yeah, and then Philly again, which is strange. Like you kind of usually, when you get cut by a team, they don't ever kind of come back. And when you went back, you played 4 or 5 more years there,
right?
Which is not normal.
Right.
And But the thing about that is those are two huge NFL cities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some places are it's more of a college place. You know, those are two NFL premier places to play. What was it like playing in the NFC East for that many years in the cities that you played in?
All in all, I played 9 years in the NFC East between the Eagles and the Redskins, and you're right about it, Eric. When I first got to Philadelphia, just the history, I'm coming from Texas. You grew up playing high school ball here in Texas. Football is king,
Sure.
but that's on the amateur level. When you get to Philadelphia, when you get to Washington, there's so much history, and the whole community, the whole state, they get behind their teams. And I'll never forget my rookie year, all I heard was beat Dallas, beat Dallas. Like, no matter where you go in the NFC East, they just hate Dallas. They love their football, and it was a great experience.
Now, sometimes for these things, I usually get these cards, and I get some facts about people.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people I don't know too well, so I read up on it. And I knew you pretty well, so I didn't think I needed to see the cards. So I briefly scanning over these cards, and you're a pretty impressive person. The one thing that just stood out to me, I'm reading these cards, and I don't know if you still hold it, but at one time you held the high jump record in Texas. And if people don't know, track in Texas, that's kind of like people don't realize how big of a deal track in Texas is.
Right.
Like, it's football, but people take track really seriously. I mean, really seriously here.
That's right.
Like,
That's
it is big deal who won. Everybody knows who won the high school 100, how fast you won it.
Right.
When I was there, I always know who won the 100. Oh, I got a kid from Dallas ran a 10-1-5 in the 100. You know, won it. You know, this team won it. High school state record, 7-foot high jump.
Actually, I don't believe it was a state record, but I won Texas relays, and that meant a lot to me because, state, you're just competing against your level, like 5A, 4A, 3A. When I won the Texas relays in high jump, you're competing against everybody. It's just everybody, the best of the best in Texas.
All right, we're going to have to get the crack research team after that. See if it's a record.
Yeah,
7 foot in high school is
I know it's
absurd.
still my district record. But then I think somebody broke it as a city. But
7 foot?
And I'll tell you what's crazy. I had no form.
Did you just run up there and just get over it?
It was funny. I had this
Would
coach.
you just jump feet first over it?
I tried to do the Fosbury flop, but I was just a big football guy out there, and I had my defensive line coach was also my high jump coach, and we're practicing on this grass field. I have these 2-pound football cleats on, and he literally has this high jump book, and he's just reading to me. All right, now try to make your head touch the back of your heels when you go over the board. I mean, it was a team event, and to this day, myself, Coach Garrison, we come from two different paths. He's the stereotypical redneck, always has a dip in his mouth, and he's one of my best friends in my life because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to do that. He believed in me.
Now, the thing that's, to me, that's always impressive about you is that you've had a life off the field, and you've had it for a while. You own, or you run, or you're the manager or principal, or however they say it in the business world, of the Kalu Group, and it's a residential, just real estate?
Real estate investment firm.
Explain it.
Okay, it's the Kalu Group, and I've had it since I was playing. I have my broker's license, and while I was playing, I was just buying up low-income properties here in the Houston area, and the thought was when I was retired, I was going to manage those properties, live off the rents, and make them available for Houston voucher holders. And from that, we've actually started managing other investors' properties. So we're a real estate investment firm with a focus on low-income residential properties, but we also and this is starting to be our main focus, we manage other investments for other investors out there.
Now, is it apartments, or is it just single-family homes?
I used to do apartments, but I thought about 2 years ago, I had a conversation with myself and said, you know what, I'm spreading myself too thin. Why don't you just be a expert in one sector?
Sure.
So all I do is low-income, single-family homes.
Okay, so this is something, and there's another thing, too, that you're doing that I like is you're on the radio a lot.
Yeah.
You're doing that. What's got you into that? How's that started, and how much do you like it?
You know what? I was actually trying to sell a home to the PD, to the program director here. Then we were driving around looking at houses. We were talking, and he was like, you know what? Did you ever think about media? And the funny thing is, I always said once I retired from football, I was never going to coach. I was never going to be a sports broadcaster in the media because there's so much more, which you know, and you're a great example of this. There's so much more to life than football. I wanted to experience the other things, and I didn't want to be that has-been who's always trying to put a mic in your face after a game and talk about when I used to play, but I just enjoy it. What I enjoy the most is the interaction with the callers, with the public. The fans are a lot more knowledgeable than I thought they were, and I just really enjoy talking to them.
I noticed that on my on this show. Obviously, we get a lot of good tweets, but also on the radio show that I do as well. We get a lot of good calls. Find out, people are watching the games out there, and they're not just watching; they're really watching them.
Exactly.
I ask every person I have here, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are you doing in 5 years?
In 5 years, I'm securing a contract with Fannie Mae. I want to be the largest minority-owned property management company in Texas, and I think in 5 years I'll be close to that goal.
ND, impressive as always. Thanks for being here, bud.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
You can say your okay.
Welcome back to Radio Faces at our Houston Community College Studio Main Street campus. He's ND Kalu from Sports Radio 610 and Channel 13. I'm John McClain from the Chronicle and Cron.com and Sports Radio 610. Let's get right to our HCC Smart Decision of the Week.
My smart decision goes to the offensive side of the ball, the offensive coaching staff. They utilize Arian Foster. I like to call it feed the beast, and it really held true the last 5 minutes and 15 seconds of the game. Right when that time hit, Jacksonville Jaguars just scored a touchdown. The momentum was shifting to Jacksonville's side of the ball. But what the offense was able to do for the Houston Texans, they were able to ground out the clock. They just kept feeding Arian Foster. He didn't have a big day when you talk about yards per average, but he continued to protect the ball, fall forward, pick up the first downs. During that last 5 minutes, they held the ball for 4 minutes and 57 seconds, and I believe that's what capped off the game, and that was a smart decision by Coach Kubiak and co.
Mine goes back to the draft. They already had all their starting linebackers with Mario Williams moving from defensive end to outside linebacker, and I thought in the second round, why do they need to draft another outside linebacker? But they drafted Brooks Reed. Brooks Reed continues to get better. In the first game he played for Mario Williams, he had 2 pressures on the quarterback. He's had a sack in each of the last 2 games. I believe he's had 1 rubbed out because of a penalty. It's a new position. He's learning coverage. He's playing the run. Every time I look up, he's tearing off around the corner on the tackle. What do you think about the contribution he's made so far?
Oh, I like what he's done. He was a second-round pick. He didn't know if he was going to be more of a special teamer contributor and a role player, and he was thrust into the starting lineup. And just like you said, he's getting pressure on the quarterback. He's getting sacks. And when I watch him, he's getting sacks by beating offensive tackles. In the preseason, I was cautious because a lot of his plays were going against running backs or tight ends who were left into block. But now he's beating starting offensive tackles in the league. He's very good pickup, and he might be a steal when it's all said and done, considering they did get him in the second.
Not your ordinary sports show. Eric spending a few minutes with NFL veteran ND Kalu, who your high jump record in high school is the school record, not
District.
the state.
Give me
district.
something. It's not just a school.
It's a private school in San Antonio you went to. It's actually not even doesn't even have a sports program anymore.
It's an all-girls
It's
school.
the state record. Yours is 7 feet, right?
7
the
feet.
state record is 7'7". So you weren't
Wow.
that far off.
No, that's far. That's big. Who's
7'7"
that? Was it Ray
is
Dokes? Is it Ray
ridiculous.
It's the
Dokes?
state record.
Ray Dokes from the Woodlands?
I don't know. I'll check. Well, our crack staff is back there. They
You know
were
who
checking
does
out
have a
during the
state
war.
record in the disc is playing in this game? Brian Roberson holds the
Roberson,
state.
the former
He holds a
Longhorn.
state record. He might hold the national record.
And the
He
Packers
threw it
scored again.
220
Did he?
in high school. 220 at one point. I don't know if he threw it at state. He threw it at state. He threw like 210. It was absurd.
Wow.
He's a junior Olympic thing.
Wow.
Like it's ridiculous how far he threw it.
Now that's further than, was it Michael Carter? There was another guy.
Carter
out
did
of,
the shot put.
Shot put.
Right?
And he probably threw the disc too, but he was known
He
for
was
the
shot
shot
put,
put.
right.
out of Huntsville, right?
Yep. SMU kid. Yep.
No,
Oh, yeah, he was
I
SMU.
won debate trophies for Cypress Creek High School.
You know, we didn't get to that. I had that here. We did not get to that, Steph. I'm sorry about that. I was going to throw it out there, but
Of course, I can't,
it
jump
was
over a
speech
Sunday
debates,
paper.
right? It was speech debate, wasn't it? The
was
speech.
speech
See,
and
we
debate.
didn't get to
Yes.
that. I was looking to get to that.
The state track meet record for discus, 215 feet 2 inches. Brian Robeson, good call.
Wow.
There you go.
He was he played at UT as well. So kind of a tweener in college, but ended up he's been in the NFL.
7'7"
is
the national record
for high school.
7 foot. No, that is the national record and the state record, obviously, set in 2002 by Andre Manson.
That's
from
ridiculous.
Brennan.
That's 7'7". The
Oh,
Olympic
yeah.
record is 8 feet.
It's not
Just
that
to
far
let
off.
you right.
Are you kidding me? That's only what the Olympic record?
A guy from Cuba.
How much did you say it was off by?
No, I'm saying it's jumping over Yao.
Oh.
It is.
Over
Yeah, it's over Yao.
Oh, that's only
Cow.
3 inches.
No,
Where
it's
you
just
working?
carry the two. Never mind.
No, he went to SMU. He knows
How
it.
big were you in high school? I mean,
My freshman year at Rice, I was 195. So
Okay,
my
so you were
senior
much-
year,
What'd you
Yeah.
come out as?
a defensive end / linebacker.
Yeah, you was.
and you
You
were
ate some
what?
cereal.
Yeah, you put
I
on
ate some, I
50
tell you
pounds
what I
at
did. I ate
Rice.
some creatine. That's when creatine first came out, and we discovered it at Rice. We were literally sprinkling it on our pasta. We were taking it with anything.
Were
and
you getting cramps?
I was just about to say, because I sweat a lot when I work out, and I would cramp up every summer, but there was nothing like that creatine.
But when you're a 240, and it's a lot better than the cramps.
Our crack research staff, hard at work in the background. The 300 hurdles record in Texas is 35.33
Is that Bertrand Berry?
seconds.
Robert
Does
Griffin.
that sound right?
Oh,
Robert
okay.
Griffin III, the Baylor quarterback. who-
300 hurdles and 35.
But get this, Bertrand Berry, who played defensive end in the NFL, won the 300 hurdles. That's pretty
Did he really?
impressive.
Bertrand did?
A
Yes.
defensive
He's
end?
from,
Yes.
that's right. He is
He's from
Texas.
Humble.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
There's some great athletes that come out of Texas.
Oh, yeah, that's absurd.
We also have some great questions from our fans. Our Twitter feed brought to you by Verizon. Question for Eric or ND from Mighty Patrick. Can you take us through what it's like in the film room the day after a game in the NFL?
Oh, well, it depends win or lose, and I'll let Eric speak on this also. Obviously, it's much better after a win, but one thing Kubiak did when I was there, and I don't know if he still does it, he'll bring the whole team together to make sure that the offensive players see the positive plays that the defensive players are making, and vice versa.
Or negative play.
It takes a lot. Yeah, I was
Or
gonna say,
negative. Yeah, he
last
does.
year is on one end, this year on the
Your
other.
whole goal is to not be on that
Not be on
film.
the film.
Exactly.
Don't be on
Wait,
that.
so they're pointing out the good plays and the bad plays?
The good and the
but
bad.
not-
in front of the
Yeah,
entire
sometimes
team.
it ain't a fun meeting.
How does that feel when you got 52 other guys or
It
more
feels
than that?
bad, just like he said. I mean,
Peer
we're joking
pressure.
about it and we're laughing, but when it's a bad play and he's showing the entire team, you really just feel like crawling into a
It's a
hole.
Snickers commercial.
Yeah, exactly.
Want to get away?
Yeah, or
Or
Southwest.
yeah.
But when it's a good play, you know, your chest is kind of out. And when you know you've made some good plays, I'm sure guys won't admit it, but they're all thinking, he better put my play on there. He better put my play on there.
Although
Yeah.
some of the games lately, you just have to watch the whole dang
That's it.
film.
Y'all still do the.
It's a fun meeting. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's a
that's
fun. There've been fun meetings. It's a thing. It's such a roller coaster in the NFL. When you win, it's the greatest feeling in the world. You're the best team, and you're going to the Super Bowl. And when you lose, we all stink. We have no chance of winning another game, and you know that's just the way it is. And you know, I wouldn't say the coaches are always like that because some coaches aren't. But you know, the meetings are tough when you lose. You know, it's not easy.
it
Take a
sounds-
hard look at yourself, and when you win. You still end up doing that, but at the same time, there's always a positive spin on it. So even if you had a bad game and you won, you never feel nearly as bad as when you had a bad game and you lose.
Now, Cushing, I guess that the one game where Cushing got his face busted open, and Kubiak said, and Kubiak said after that he showed film of that being a smart play, that he didn't retaliate.
Yeah, the guy is like going after him. The guy knocks his helmet off and then headbutts him. I hope he should get fined for that.
He didn't get fined for it because I think the replay shows it may have been that Cushing took the helmet off and then got over there, and there's a question of whether he just
initiated the headbutt.
But I mean, he was getting the business. Like he could have totally gone off because the guy's pushing him in the back.
The guy's mad because Cushing levels him on the.
Yeah, and so he gets up and he
tries
starts
to deck.
pushing him.
It's funny because you watch the film and who makes the pick there? It's Demps. Demps makes the pick. He's going outside and Cushing's behind him, and the guy has an angle on Demps, turns and runs after Cushing. He doesn't even try to make his tackle. He's like, "Oh, there's Cushing. Let me go get
take him out."
And he comes in, and Cushing catches him right under his chin and drops him. Like, the guy's running, I mean, that's 330 pounder running,
he's a
and
big guy.
Cushing drops him and is laughing at him, and then turns to walk away, and the guy pops up and starts shoving him right in the back. And yeah, I think Cushing might have popped his helmet off for some reason, but still, it's just.
There was nonsense being said back and forth, but Kubiak said that he showed that as like, okay, we wouldn't have gotten the field goal had Cushing retaliated after the blood stuff was coming off his face, which he could have. You know, if somebody's pushing you in the back, it's very hard to hold your self-control and not go.
Just adds to the urban legends.
Yeah.
Right, you know.
Brian Cushing, gladiator.
In 2 years, Cushing headbutted him.
Broke his face mask,
too. He took his helmet off and he headbutted him, cracked his helmet.
Gave him a concussion, broke his nose.
This guy was committed.
But did you see the mic'd up? The mic'd up was almost like Cushing as a cartoon character. Like, I'm going to throw the ball.
That's the question I have
I think he played up for that.
Well,
is he normally that talkative on the field?
He is, but I think he said some of that stuff because he was
mic'd up.
Yeah.
1 on 11, I like my chances. Was that one of his quotes?
It was pretty thick.
And then he's rapping.
That's a good way to put it. It was thick.
Thick.
He laid it on nice and thick.
Who is the most talkative Texan on the field? I mean, who's really yapping?
Is he?
None of us on offense. No one that I really know.
I know Andre's not.
Unless you get us going, that's the only time I ever see.
Titans.
But usually it's defensive guys, right? That are. Or
it's
receivers.
usually the speed defensive guys, I would say, that yap the most because they're the most in shape.
I'll tell you who
I'm not in shape enough to yell at anybody. It's too hard to breathe at that point. Like, I'm not even wasting my breath. Like, if it's a long drive, someone could actually start saying anything they wanted about me and my family. And I would have no means to verbal retaliate because I'm breathing so hard at that point. That it's like, I just think I can get my mouthpiece out of my mouth before I choke on it.
That's fun. I'll tell you who I like the way he plays, and I would have loved to play a season with him, Antonio Smith. I mean, what's he like in the locker room? He seems like he might be a big talker on the field.
Who's that?
Antonio
Smith.
Yeah, Antonio can get going.
Yeah.
Antonio's mouth can get going. Yeah, he can.
He's having a heck of a year.
But he's another guy, like, I don't think he does a ton unless he's provoked.
Okay.
But once he's provoked, I don't think it stops. I don't think it stops once he's provoked.
Do you guys get a kick out of the ninja stuff, or is it?
I think it's the
kind of out there.
That's pretty
funny.
Oh, wait, he had a battle red ninja.
I think it's the
funniest
thing I've ever seen. There's, like, I seriously, when he gets a sack, the whole offensive line stands up and watches him because he's got the dance down.
It's like
it's really Zorro.
It's
really Zorro. It's really Zorro.
It's not any wax
but
on
it's
or what.
perfect though. Like, he's just like. He does the run, when I was growing up, I used to watch a lot of like those kind of movies.
Martial arts?
Yes.
Yeah.
A martial, like every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Right.
That guy was my hero. I watched those, all of them. I watch
we'll discuss that.
And I don't know. I don't know if you remember these movies, but there's a set of movies called American Ninja.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Three of them.
Sure. 1, 2, and 3.
Michael Dudikoff, I think his name was, or something like that. Those were fantastic. But all of them in those movies, it's like the stereotypical Japanese ninja that he's fighting against, and they all run like that. And it's exactly like he gets his hit, and he goes up, and he's like, and he does it, and it's spot on. It's spot on. It's like the perfect combination of Ninja and Zorro.
That needs to be in the film room. You just kind of splice that in between plays. That would work.
That'd be fantastic.
Now, what's this whole ninja phenomenon? I'm getting old. I'm out of the circle. But even on Twitter, I'm reading these.
Thinks he's a ninja.
No, not just him, but
he thinks he's a ninja.
I think Dante Stallworth, it says he's a part-time ninja. Is this some young guy thing?
I don't know. I don't know that.
So young.
Part-time ninja.
He's old now. He's old now. He can't answer.
From what I hear, there's some certifications to be had of ninjery.
Antonio said you can get him online. So
like
he said he's got an advanced degree from the ninjaschool.com.
He's 100% serious about that. He was not kidding when he told you that. He's 100%.
Actually, some of the stuff that he was doing on video actually are martial arts moves.
He's 100% serious. He has.
Does he know karate?
I wouldn't go that
I'll tell you,
far.
he does probably.
I would say
he plays
he's
one on
a
TV
ninja.
or on the field or something.
Wow.
And he's familiar with it, like I said, the art of ninjery.
Ninjery.
Okay, but the question is would you do MMA trading with Cushing?
I've done some of that stuff before, not all the time. It's good. I think some of it's useful. I wouldn't go as far as like just make it part of my whole off-season thing, but I think some of that's fun. I think it, more than anything, I think it breaks the monotony of lifting all the time and just doing the same stuff over and over, and you kind of, you can compete at something, but I don't know if I'd do it with Cushing.
Yeah.
Seems like, okay, that's my ankle. All right, that's my ankle. Stop.
Well, he's kind of like
thank you.
He's kind of like the sibling that doesn't know when to stop.
Yeah.
Like, hey, buddy.
You ever seen Four Christmases with Vince Vaughn? And he's God, I can't think of the guy's name. He's the director in all those movies. He just plays this big meathead that doesn't know when to stop. Like, he always is trying to wrestle his brothers. He gets on the ground and starts pummeling them and stuff. Cushing reminds me of that.
The weird thing with Brian is, off the field, he's really mild-mannered.
No, yes, he's quiet. He doesn't say a ton. It depends who's around. He's got some things going on with some of the guys on the team, so he always likes to, joke with them and stuff. And even our athletic trainer, Jeff Kaplan, like him and Jeff go after each other all the time. But it's always really funny, and it's always, it's in the spirit of everything, I think, going on. Another thing, I think when you get into this, these are kind of the mid-season times where you spend a lot of hours up there, and especially the last couple weeks where we had a break in 4 months.
Right.
We are the last ones to get this bye, and I think it's still, for us, where we want to go this year and where we think we can go, I think it's still going to be a perfect time to have the bye.
Well, especially with quarterback injury.
Sure. Yeah. But, not even with that. I think just having the late bye, wanting to go deep in the playoffs, it's something that you need to do some of that stuff. You need to have some of those guys, and I think we do have a really good blend of personalities in the locker room.
The equivalent of the dog days of August in baseball.
Yeah.
You guys are in the dog days of November, I guess. I don't know.
So what's the schedule during this bye week? Do y'all have to show up for anything, or are y'all completely off like Philadelphia was?
No, we'll be in there tomorrow. I think we'll be in there tomorrow and then figure out whatever else he wants us to do. So
that's crap. The entire week.
Well, now in the CBA, we've secured that at least Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday have to be off.
You have to have a 4-day.
4-day week. 4 days off, including the weekend.
But then you don't have a regular week when you come back, right?
Yeah.
Do you have Tuesday off?
Yeah.
The following week? Okay. Because I thought I'd seen
Tuesday's
that some teams practice on Tuesdays coming off a bye week.
I guess you could.
So y'all coming in on a Tuesday? I had to check my watch to make sure I was
tomorrow.
looking at that right.
So but we're going to get some off days. So.
Okay.
Well, you've earned it.
Yeah.
7-3, you guys.
I feel like we had.
Now Matt Leinart might need to get a few extra reps in as he steps in.
Hey, well, like I said, Matt's a guy too that people don't realize the things. You don't realize the preparation some of these guys put into. Then all of a sudden the light hits them. They're like, well, guy should have been playing all along. He's just look at him. He's just natural out there, and you don't realize that. Matt was coming in last year, on Saturday mornings to get extra work in with Knapp. This year he's got such a more of a command of the offense, even going into camp because of those days and the things that he's doing, the after practice things he's getting with some of the practice. Whoever's going to sit out there and throw, the reps that he's taken with the first team already, during camps and. Even when Matt had that, I don't know, what was it, an ankle or a shoulder or whatever he did.
Right.
He was set up.
He got the MRI on his shoulder. I think.
Yeah, when Matt was, wasn't doing all the practices, he ran a lot of those too. So it's not going to be the first time we've seen 11 in the huddle. That's for sure.
He needs a little work on the mustache, though. Really. I know he's involved in Movember, good cause, but
Matt.
Yeah, that's a little.
You know what? He grows it in pretty well, like the beard.
No, Matt Leinart.
No, I know. He grows it in pretty well.
Well, I saw the mustache.
But yeah, it does. It looks suspect.
Yeah.
I think we're all going to take our off week and really dedicate ourselves to making sure. I'm shaving tomorrow because we got to work out and everything tomorrow because I get bad razor burn if I shave before, but I feel like this is going to look pretty strong. This is gonna look really
Old
good.
School.
You convincing yourself or us? I'm not sure.
Both. But I really feel like
Okay.
I feel like it's gonna be something that you're gonna want to see.
Who with the team's gonna win the '70s porn stash award?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna keep the handlebars, so it probably won't be me.
More like a motorcycle guy.
It could be Leinart.
It could be Leinart. There you go.
Could be Leinart. It's.
Connor Barwin is pretty.
Connor's is so thick though. It's like very Tom Selleck.
He's a poor man's Tom Selleck.
Magnum PI.
Yeah, it really comes in thick.
So what's going on? Y'all are competing with the best mustache?
Well, it's called Movember. It's a it's like prostate cancer awareness month, and so everyone grows a mustache for November.
Okay.
And there's websites on. There's a Twitter.
Yeah, it's called Movember.com. You can go there and search around. And the team I'm on with a couple friends is you can see the picture in the background there, right? Right there.
Nice.
You can see. Yeah,
there you go.
That's week 1.
Yeah.
That was week 1. So this is going to be at the end of week 2. Like I said, I'm not shaved yet. I'll shave tomorrow.
You should have done the chops with it too.
Yeah, I didn't want to overdo it. But
you're like one of the village people, right?
You had the Indian cop, you had the sailor, and then you have the offensive lineman.
That's cool, man.
Wah, wah, wah.
You got me on that one.
Yeah, that was good.
You got me on that one. I didn't have anything else to respond to that. But you go to Movember.com. You can search Houston Handlebars is the group I'm in. That's also why I have the handlebars, and it's for a great cause. People donate money. Just it's money, but it's also awareness. It just knowing the stats. I think people men especially don't realize how prevalent prostate cancer has become, and it's something that every dime I think helps.
It's just an excuse for men folk to get gruffly. I want them to have a month where people have to look like they're not hobos. You know what I'm saying? Because nowadays it's kind of like you can go down the street.
I hear that's impossible in Kansas City.
Yeah, I guess. No, but it's one of those things where you go down the street and you can't tell.
I'm with you. Todd Haley. Yeah.
Clean-shaven people, it's just not a trend.
I don't know what's going on with that.
No, if you look at the sexiest men thing in People magazine, it's like, okay, here's a gruffly guy. I mean, they all have I have my
stubble.
But it's like artfully.
Stubble.
Yeah, it's artfully done. It's impressive.
On.
Yeah.
Y'all are looking in the mirror more than women do to get your stubble
Really?
just
Okay.
right. I mean, come on.
Hey, I believe our crack research staff has tracked down video of Antonio Smith's ninja celebration after his sack of Drew Brees. See if we can roll that video. Here we go. Oh no, this is being
that's out of the
introduced.
tunnel.
That's intro, yeah.
But it's so perfect, like the form and everything.
Here we go. This is the Saints game.
Oh,
There he
all
comes.
over.
With a sack.
Look at
I got it.
It's like, but the twirl.
Yeah.
Like you really believe like he had a sword, it would be twirling perfectly.
But you're right. It's more of that Zorro feel.
It is.
Than actual
The end of it. This is the end of it. But the first part where he's right here, like about to bring it out, like running. I'm telling you, he could be in any extra in American Ninja. He's a spot-on ringer for it.
Antonio Smith, part of the Texans defense that has really turned it around.
It's
They're
just amazing.
top
fantastic.
3 in several of the top categories. It's pretty impressive.
I'm pretty happy about it, but I think there's no one more relieved about it than Steph is. Because I can't remember how many articles were written that she wrote about the defense last year.
No, not just last year. God bless. Well, no, there was a time where people were trying to say, "Oh, the defense it's getting better." Not so much.
Not so much.
And I mean, I hate saying it. But I mean, I don't think anybody predicted that there would be this much of a turnaround.
Dan Passerini did.
He thought it was going to be number 1 defense in the league.
Top 5.
Yeah, Dan did
He
say
said
that.
top 5 in the summer.
And there's a bet going on for that.
Well, he and Greg Cook.
Well, that's a hard thing to do because, like what we were talking about, if your offense can put up points, you can put pressure. Just in garbage time. That in the fourth quarter there can be a lot of stats. I mean, it's hard to have a good offense and a good defense. You don't see it like if you look at a lot of the statistical method. I mean, look at all the top defensive teams. Who's a top offense too? Texans.
No.
Look at
Pittsburgh, maybe.
They're
not this year.
Not this
so
year.
Much. Right.
Not this year. And then look at all the top offensive teams. What are they doing on defense?
When you look at
if
the
you
Patriots,
look at the advanced stats, the Texans are the most balanced team across the board with offense, defense,
the only
and special team.
I know in Football Outsiders.
Top 10.
Top 10. The only team in top 10, both offense, defense, and special.
And that doesn't have. I mean, if you look at those metrics over time, there's not that many teams that do that.
Right.
I mean, it's very kind
Packers
of an old.
last year, I think, were up there.
Chargers were, right?
Yeah,
Chargers, but their special teams was
right.
so terrible.
Right.
I mean, they kind of were snake bit special teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they had crazy stuff happen to them.
Uh-oh.
Ball.
That's out of bounds.
Did he get the ball before it went out of bounds?
Out of bounds.
No. 31-7. Can the Packers go through this season perfect? Can they do it?
If their defense plays like this every week, they can.
They play rookie quarterback every week.
Yeah, they play.
I'm not just saying in this game though. I mean, the Packers look to me better than they were last year. I know their defense is giving up more deep plays, big plays, but I'm not sure anybody can keep up with their offense.
If you outscore the other team, you win every week.
I don't know what the rest of their schedule is. I'm sure they've got the Bears. Have they
got
even
a
played the
decent
Bears
schedule.
at all this year?
They got Detroit on Thanksgiving, at Detroit. They've got.
That'll be a hell of a game.
That'll be fun. Yeah, that'll actually be a fun game for once.
Yeah, for Detroit. Yeah.
Detroit was about to lose that game, and now
Detroit's
Although
reeling
with their
now.
Yeah, they're
reeling. They are reeling a little
going
bit.
the wrong way.
But you know, you got that game. I think they play Chicago again. I think maybe the last game of the year. I want to say again that.
But that'll be one of those situations like Indianapolis was in.
Yeah.
Are you playing your starters just to have that perfect record? Or
Well, to me too, if you get anywhere close, you have to go for it. I think that's the one thing I'll say about Indianapolis. I just can't believe that, you know, it's more important. You know, stop. You know, come on. You know, you got a chance at history.
Even if you don't win the Super Bowl that year, there's something to be said about going undefeated in the regular season.
And let's face it too. If Peyton wanted it, he could have.
Oh yeah,
that would have been the case.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, the flip side of that is, you know, Patriots losing Wes Welker in the last game.
The game here, right?
Yeah, here.
Yeah, the grass
football.
monster got. Well, yeah, it might be football. You just lost Wes Welker for the playoffs, and you know, and they were. It was kind of a weird game because
Wes
they
Welker,
kind of.
from what I remember, doesn't play run defense after they played Baltimore that next game too. No, but you're. I mean, it is. There's risk to it all, and like I said, I just think at that point you have to go for it, and it's been crazy too. If you think of, I mean, how many times has there been 14 teams? Not many, and we've had 2 of them in like the last 5 years.
Well, and with the size of the rosters, if you're sitting your quarterback, you also run the risk of somebody who's not as familiar with the offense getting people hurt because they're throwing the ball, you know, not quite as on point as the people before you.
The weird thing in that game, and I think maybe you were just getting to this, was Belichick put in his first team to start the game, pulled them out, and then put them back in.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I think, is when did Welker get hurt early or
early in the game?
It was early.
Was it early?
Early in the game.
Because Tom Brady came back after he got hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that's more of a recipe for an injury than anything.
Once
Because
you
when you
guys are
pull
pulled out.
somebody, just mentally, you're kind
Like,
of just
hey,
out of it.
let me
your
take my
body-
tape off.
Right. I mean, even if the coach tells you keep your tape on, stay warm, just subconsciously you just get yourself out of that game mode.
So I'm looking at our crack research staff. Thanks again to them. The Packers' schedule includes the road games. You mentioned Detroit. They're at Detroit. They're at the Giants. That's another tough game.
They got Tampa next.
And they have an away game at Kansas City. The home games, they're going to be favored heavily in all these. Tampa, Chicago, Oakland, and then home against Detroit. I mean, they're at least
Chicago on Christmas Day.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
And
in
Oakland, Carson
Green Bay.
Palmer, it seems like he's getting more comfortable every week.
Yeah.
So it's going
The
to be
Oakland
tough to
game
go
will be
undefeated.
interesting.
Yeah.
The Oakland, because Oakland's got one of those matchups. I think it's tough. That'll be tough for them. They got a big physical front that can get after the pass, especially up the middle. Wembley can do his thing on the outside sometimes, and they have athleticism. They have the athleticism to stay with them. And if they have McFadden back and they have Bush back, they can run the ball and
They
eat
can
clock.
play keep away.
They can play some keep away with them. So I think that could be a tough game. It's at Lambeau though.
What about the Giants?
Oakland's one of those
The
teams, though.
Giants,
It's like you can never fully buy into it. Though. You know, you're like, they got the guys, but then they just do something some week. You're like, they let Tebow run 300 yards on them. You're like, jeez.
Look back at, you know, I was looking back at like their penalty statistics. They're always at the bottom of the league with penalties.
Always.
I was like, what is it with black and silver? Does that make you make a penalty?
Make you
I mean,
angry.
They take pride in that, I think. You know, they want to lead the league in something.
Ow.
You know? The Giants, though, are a team that seem to raise their game to the level of their competition. That Packers at Giants game in December, or It's either late November or early December. That's going to be a hell of a game.
Well, and they're not afraid to run the ball. I mean, if you look at Eli's numbers over the years, they're not huge passing numbers, but they don't want to have huge passing numbers for the Giants. They want to run the ball. And, you know, I'm thinking that the only way that you beat the Packers is the way that you beat the Colts, which is you keep the quarterback off the field, and then you cause enough mischief on defense to make it a game.
Which the Giants can do with their pass rush.
Which they can do. And you can get away with you know, throwing over inferior opponents during the season. But what happens when you face a decent opponent, you know, during the season or in the postseason? I mean, that was the biggest issue that the Colts have had over the years.
And the Packers really laying it on here, up by 30 with the extra point to come. It gives us a chance, though, to step aside for another one-on-one segment as Eric goes one-on-one with BMC Software and LSU Tigers fan Dandy Arman. Before they get into their stances, let's take a few minutes to hear a little more about BMC Software.
At BMC Software, we're proud of our history and passionate about our technology. We've grown considerably since our start in Houston in 1980, when we offered a handful of powerful point products for managing mainframes. But even with our impressive growth, we've managed to maintain a laser-sharp focus on doing one thing exceptionally well: building the world's best IT software to solve real customer problems. This focus has provided our customers great value by allowing them to better manage their IT infrastructures. We serve more than 15,000 customers across every major industry and in more than 80 countries. In 2003, building on this strong history and foundation, BMC defined, introduced, and delivered business service management, the most effective approach for managing IT from the perspective of the business. Today, BSM is at the core of everything we do, and we are changing the industry. Drawing upon more than 25 years of experience, we're confidently guiding our customers toward recognizing that what IT and business need is BSM, a better way to reduce costs, lower risk, and benefit from an IT infrastructure built to support business growth and flexibility. Put simply, BSM helps our customers do more of what supports the business and less of what doesn't. BSM is not just a buzzword. With business service management, BMC helps you activate business with the power of IT.
All right, Dan, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here, and thanks for going one-on-one with me.
Absolutely.
Now.
Thanks for having me.
You were originally born in Houston, but moved to Baton Rouge, so you're kind of
I'm a half-breed.
Yeah, I was about to say you're a little, you know, South Louisiana, but you're also a little Houston too, because you live here now. What are the two places like? How do you reconcile the two places? You know, do you see a lot of similarities in the people? Because I think people would say, oh no, we're nothing like each other.
I think, you know, growing up, you know, in the South like you did, I mean, I think, you know, Southern people are kind of that way. We're known for being a little more, you know, hospitable and friendly and things like that. But I think, you know, I mean, you've been to New Orleans, I'm sure, many times and whatever. Louisiana is a country to its own. But I think, you know, Southern hospitality goes throughout. But I mean, in Louisiana, we very proud of the fact that we're very different from everybody else. Everything from the legal system all the way to we all know about the food and the way we like to party and things like that too. But
politics.
Politics, yeah, it's vote early, vote often in Louisiana. But it really is. It was a great place to grow up.
Okay, so you go to high school there, then you decide to go to SMU.
Right.
What, you didn't want to go to LSU?
Actually, I went there my freshman year. I went to Episcopal High School in Baton Rouge, small high school, and went to LSU. Never thought about going anyplace else. A little bit too big for me, so transferred. Went to SMU, and when I was there, that was the year. My senior year was the year we got the death penalty.
What was that like? What was that? I mean, what was the buzz around? You saw. I think the 30 for 30 did a really good job at kind of capturing that, but at the same time.
They really did. I mean, I think that they did a great job setting that up as far as what led to that happening there in Dallas and in Texas with the greed.
I mean, did everybody kind of know what was going on?
Yeah, they did. I mean, there was a classmate of mine who unfortunately was one of the guys that got us in some of the trouble. Super nice guy, but he had no business driving a brand new 300Z and living in a 3-story townhouse out by Dallas Cowboy Stadium. But
typical college living.
Typical college living, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, towards the end, I mean, being a senior that year and seeing that happen was difficult because it really put a shadow over that last big dark cloud over the last 3-4 months of going to school there.
Now, so after SMU, did you move back to Houston?
No, after that, I moved to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Spent 7 years up there. Met my wife. Our son was born there.
Now, you did some politics to start off with, right?
I did. Worked for George Bush 41. Was on his presidential campaign in 1988.
Now, what were you doing for that?
I was in charge of the national press plane that followed us around during the campaign, so make sure the media got from point A to point B, knew what was going on that particular week, which made it a lot of fun. Then after that, I worked in the administration at the Energy Department for a while.
Is that right? What were you doing there?
I was deputy press secretary.
Really?
There, so I handled all the national media. I met my wife. She worked up on the Hill up there in Washington as well. So
Washington's such an interesting place. I've been there a few times. And that you can feel, it's like New York City in the sense that you can feel the energy.
You really can. It's a very young, vibrant city. Everyone wants to go there, think they're going to change the world. A lot of them do.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very young town.
None of them do.
No, none of them do. No. they realize they can't, and they get out and they leave. They want to go back to, I'm going to make some money, I'm getting out of here. Yeah. That's what we did.
Yeah. Okay, so then Washington, and then you came to Houston.
Yeah, after our son was born, wanted to get out of that.
It was time to make some money.
It was time to make some money, so we said, get out of here. So I grew up in Louisiana. In-laws are from South Texas, so we're halfway in between. Went to work for a public relations agency here, and then joined BMC about 13 and a half years ago.
Now, how's that been with BMC? Tell the viewers a little bit what BMC does.
BMC Software, actually, we're the 8th largest software company in the world, about $2 billion in revenue. And
small.
It's a small. We got about 6,000 startup, 6,000 people around the world. What we do is we make companies run. So we manage all their business systems. So we're very back office, but very strategic for our big customers.
So how's that been doing, all the community involvement for a big company like that? Has it been I mean, it's got to be rewarding, right?
It really is.
Kind of be the lead person on a lot of that.
It really is. It's been very cool. Probably the neatest thing for me is actually I created this role. So being a company of our size, global company, 53 countries around the world, really kind of shape our giving philosophy, and we can really make impact in communities and get to work on some great programs, for nonprofits, as well as doing great things in Houston, like working with the Houston Super Bowl.
It seems like nonprofits have become kind of your, I guess, calling in a way. Is that something that you always been that kind of philanthropic kind of, outlook on things, or is it just something you realized how much you liked once you started doing it?
Well, a couple things. One, I think it really it goes back to the way I was raised, and particularly my father. I was asked him one time about one word to describe him, and that was the word for respect. Respect for others. And I think going through that and hearing that growing up and really understanding what that means made a big impression on me. And then working for George Bush 41, because we all know what he did for volunteerism and community service and government service. So I think the combination of those, it made it be a good fit.
All right, Dan, 5 years, where you at?
I'd like to be independently wealthy, drinking a beer on a beach. That's not happening. Well, I love being in Houston.
You don't get that from
I don't get
giving,
that.
right?
No, not from this, no. Actually, I love being in Houston. I really do. This has been a great place for us. So if I could be semi-retired, that'd be nice. But no, I plan on being right here. Great city.
That's awesome. Dan,
thanks, Eric. Thanks for having us. Thanks for what you do.
Dan DeArmond with BMC Software. Dan, appreciate you again coming out and joining us for
Glad to do it. It's been fun.
For this game. Game not
You're
quite
calling
as
that a game, yeah.
game.
Game, quote unquote.
Week. Hey, we do have some more questions, and actually we want to open up the Twitter feed as well, @TheBusTV, if you have questions for Dan, ND, Steph Stradley, Eric Winston, or myself. That's @TheBusTV. But Steph writes a blog for Cron.com on the Texans, and we got to some of the questions. We had some more questions from readers of your blog, Texans fans, for Eric.
Let's see. JP Texan says that the Foster Tate duo needs a nickname. And here's my idea, Slice and Dice. Foster is Slice because he just cuts through the defense like a hot knife through butter. Tate is Dice because once he gets rolling, the defense just says, "Aw, crap."
Original.
Yeah, you know. Now, I understand, I heard that all three running backs have a nickname, but they haven't shared it with the world. Do you know what this nickname is?
I don't know what that is either.
You don't?
No, I don't either.
Okay, now that's your job for the next.
Yeah, I guess
next week. Get your homework.
What was the Giants' old one? Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yep.
When Derek Ward.
Derek was one of them.
Which one's what was Derek? I bet he was Earth. No, Brandon Jacobs was Earth.
Brandon was Earth. Yeah, right. Yeah. He's moving the Earth.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Now my good friend, every time Ben Tate totes the ball, she goes, "Taters!" So that she would vote for steak and taters, because
steak and taters.
Steak and taters is always a good combo. Always.
If Arian's going to be one of them, though, it's going to have to be something more poetic than steak.
I don't know. I think that there's very few things in life that are better than a good steak.
That's a beautiful thing. Steak's a beautiful thing.
It'd be up there way on my list. There's the Battle Red blog says, was it Binarian phosphate? Binarian phosphate is their
Binarian phosphate.
Binarian phosphate.
Are they looking
Mixing
to
the
get like
two.
an ice cream together?
Yeah, bananas,
no, more kind of like a
Doesn't it sound like Ben and Jerry's?
Yeah, it does.
Banarian phosphate, just for you.
Binarian phosphate crunch or something like that.
Well, maybe
It sounds like a disease.
Binarian phosphate.
What
take you down.
Did you know that the water at that school tested positive for Binarian phosphate?
Or don't mess with that girl. She'll give you Binarian phosphate.
They don't got medicine for that. I've heard Hustle and Flow.
Hustle and Flow.
Hustle and Flow.
I think
like
John
that.
Lopez.
That's a good movie.
No. Was it? No, actually, a guy called into the post-game show. Gino from Southwest claiming to do the Hustle and Flow.
I don't know. I don't care what you call them, as long as they keep on running like that. Let's see, another question.
See Matt Flynn still throwing it down the field.
Yes, he is. I was going to do an LSU.
Up 31.
That's right.
Up 31, still winging it around.
Okay, MT has a lot of questions. Who is the best golfer on the team?
Isn't that Schaub?
Is it Matt?
Probably now. It's a toss-up, I would say, consistently. Probably Schaub now. Orlovsky was real good. Chris Brown before that was really good. Kevin Walter can really play. If Kevin's on, I mean, it's kind of, I would say, a toss-up between Kevin and Schaub now.
And you?
I'm trying to get there. I'm not there yet. But I've gotten better every summer.
That putt figured out.
No, my favorite.
I've taken like one 30-minute lesson my whole life, and the rest I've just taught myself watching golf. I would tell you what, though, if you play with better guys, you'll learn so much. You have to play. But the problem is I found like golf's like really snobby. Like if you're real bad, they don't want you to play. They won't call you. So you got to get to the point where you're not slowing anybody down.
Well, that's the deal. I'm not the best golfer in the world, but the deal is as long as you play fast, people want to play with you.
They don't mind.
As long as your BS is all right.
It's the guy who's lining up the putt from 3 sides on the green.
No, it's not even that. It's not even that if you're good.
Sergio Garcia takes
they
20
shanked
minutes.
it left, then they go across the fairway right.
God forbid they end up in a trap.
And then they don't look before they hit it, almost hit somebody. That's the one where the golfers are like, who
invited him?
Yeah,
and see, I get the invites for scrambles because I get to be on the women's tee box. I'm pretty good off the tee box, so if anybody needs a scramble partner for a charity deal, count me in. So okay, we have that question answered. Who are the biggest gym rats, and who is the strongest Texan?
The strongest Texan, believe it or not, I think it might be Cody Wallace.
Really?
He can. I've seen him during the season squatting houses in there. He's really strong. Mario Williams is ridiculously strong. Those are the guys I see a lot. Casey Stutter's strong. I'd say pound for pound, this might be really surprising. Pound for pound, though, it might be Shiloh Keo.
Really?
Pound for pound.
Okay, who's the biggest gym rat who loves being in the gym?
James Casey.
Yeah.
Loves. I think he gets like maybe 1,000 curls in a week.
He starts at like 5 a.m., right?
I don't think it's 1,000, but it's a lot.
I've heard that he's there before the coaches are there.
He's not scared about getting up early. I know that. He is not.
So you like Skanina in that sense?
A little bit. I think. I don't know. I'm never there that early.
You just heard.
Yeah, I've heard stories.
Okay, who is the biggest eater?
Biggest eater. I think we're all pretty absurd.
Do you get sick of the cafeteria after a while?
Yeah, we do.
Usually the smaller guys, right?
I don't. Kevin Walter can throw it down. It's pretty incredible what he can do, but yeah, no one sticks out. No one's just like, oh my God, look how much he's just throwing down.
Okay, when they travel, do they get their own rooms?
Yes. That was a Kubiak thing too. That was like real important to him. Everyone has their own rooms. Everyone's treated like that.
Oh, really? That's not a CBA thing. That's a
no. Oh. Are you kidding? There's some owners that if you want your own room, they make you pay the difference for it.
For real?
Really?
Yeah.
So in the NFL
too.
Yeah,
NFL. Yeah. I think.
Bengals?
Were you here? Did you come in 06 or were you here before that?
I came in 06.
Okay, so
God
you were.
Because
I'm pretty.
Sorry.
Because
I'm
pretty sure. With
05
Capers,
is the reason why I don't want 2 extra regular season games. That about killed me.
I'm pretty sure with Capers that they had roommates. And that was like,
wow.
Coobs' little changes the whole time was like, hey.
Philadelphia, if you had to be you had to be vested, then you got your own room.
Yeah.
But if you're a year 1, 2, or 3, you had to room with somebody.
Is it still the same way in preseason when there's 85 guys on the roster?
No, some of the rookies, they room together. Like the guys that are still rooming together at the Spring Hill before, they room together, I think.
Right,
but
okay.
What about, let me just ask ND, as it in the Eagles and Redskins, did you guys have roommates or were you?
Well, with Coach Reed in Philadelphia, once you got to a certain point as far as years under your belt, then you had your own room.
So you earned.
So you earned it, and I'll never forget Derek Burgess. We're real close. He's one of my best friends in the league, and he was younger. But then I got to the point where I earned it. But he requested that he was my roommate. And I remember
I like you all.
And he was kind of like a little brother. And I remember just walking in, and he's there like, "Hey, buddy." I'm like, hold on, I'm supposed to get my own room now. But I didn't have the heart to request that I wanted my own room. But
I'm getting a question on here about protecting a blind side now, maybe with Mount playing, with a left-handed quarterback playing, just things change. I've never played with a left-handed quarterback, but I can't imagine anything changing as far as what I will do. I mean, blocking's blocking. You're trying not to get the guy hit. So I'm going to plan on going about it the same way and going about protecting the same way.
Do you think you'll see different blitz schemes and stuff because you're on his blind side? In other words, he can't see it from that side?
I wouldn't say different blitz scheme. I mean, they might try to come from the right side more than they come from the left side, maybe because you can't see it, but like I said, I just can't imagine. Like I said, I think some of this is being blown a little bit more out of proportion than it really is.
Yeah.
Right? The guy throws it like this instead of throwing it like this. I mean, it's not.
So you don't think that you agree with Mike Florio and that the Texans should give Brett Favre a call?
Was he joking?
I don't think he was.
No, I think he's probably serious, right? Yeah, but with Florio,
we're moving on.
I don't think that's happening.
Do the offensive guys mainly hang with other offensive guys, likewise with the D?
Yeah, but we got a pretty tight team. I hang out with Tim Bullman some, Jesse Nading, D'Amico and I sit right across the aisle from each other on the plane. We talk a lot. Jonathan Joseph's been a great addition. He's an awesome guy.
Oh, and it's so fun to watch him play. Oh, my Lord.
We found your little crush. We found your little crush.
There we go. Oh, look, there's a little blush going on.
Yeah, I will tell you, I have an extreme crush for Jonathan Joseph, number one quarterback.
I guess it would be a woman crush instead of a man crush.
Yeah, completely. I'll confess to that. Yeah,
I've never
it's
seen
beautiful. I bet everybody else out there who's a Texan fan has a crush too. That's He's fun to watch.
He is.
He's amazing. He's really good.
Maybe it's just that in the last 10 years I haven't seen many cornerbacks who have this ability. But Joseph has a knack for leaving his receiver and making a play, and we saw him force the interception that Cushing had last week on leaving his receiver. It's almost like it's a sixth sense. He knows when to leave his guy and close in on another guy's receiver and jar the ball loose. So he's done it twice this year, jarring the ball loose, and somebody else picks it up.
All right, you call it sixth sense. He has an instinct, anticipation, and he's one of those guys that has the ability to cover his man, but also see where the quarterback's looking, see and be able to tell whether the quarterback's just trying to look somebody off or if he's really trying to target that receiver. And if you have the ability to do that.
And I get penalized for doing that, because if you're peeking too much,
exactly.
Well, let's not forget this, though. He's extremely knowledgeable of the coverages. Yeah. I think that helps him a lot. People, it's like, oh, how's he doing that? He knows where his help is. He knows who's taking what. He's very knowledgeable of what the offense is going to give them.
Well, he's played. He's
played a lot. He's a 6-year guy, and he was great corner in Cincinnati. He played on some good defenses there. And, the biggest contribution I still think he's made, not only is the fact that he's pretty much shut down every receiver he's gone against, but he's been finally, for, I think, a young back end, a veteran guy that a lot of them look up to and a lot of them respect. And he's gotten in a lot of those guys' faces. Even when he was hurt, he wasn't sitting over there feeling sorry for himself. He wasn't on the bike hanging out. He was grabbing young guys, telling them where they were supposed to be and where they weren't and why they weren't there. That went a long way. I think it went a long way in the locker room. I think it went a long way with guys like me, seeing that, knowing that, hey, these guys, we got guys over there that are
being taken care of.
And and it's like I said, for those reasons, to me, you can't say enough about what the addition he's brought to the team.
Well, I mean, I think since the Kubiak era, I think the offensive side of the ball has had a little bit more mentoring with the coaching staff and the players that you had there, because there were people brought over from the Denver system who already knew how to do it, and there was a number of coaches that came from that established system, and they could show you film, and this is what it's supposed to look like. I don't think that a lot of, like, the defense, they've had to just kind of mentor themselves.
We've had to talk about it all last week. It's about identity. It's about knowing what you're doing and doing it and knowing what you're going to be. And I think for a long time here, we drafted a lot of good players and a lot of really good football players, and we didn't have an identity to put them in. And we're just kind of, all right, well, let's just do this week. And I think the one thing Wade Phillips has brought more than anything else is an identity of what we're going to be and what kind of style we're going to play and how we're going to do it.
Or even before the lockout, okay, here's your film. This is what this is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to know, okay, this is what you are. This is what you're supposed to be. Because you guys had that right away. It's like, this is how you're supposed to block this. You're supposed to block it like it's a run every time, even if it's not. I mean, it's nice to have. I mean, if you're gonna have a very young defense and an offensive-minded head coach, it's nice to have just turn the keys over to the defensive coordinator is like, okay, it's on you.
Well, the thing I think Wade too is impressive about Wade is it's not just I know how to call a defense. I've called a lot of games, this and that. It's also, hey, to a certain extent, give me that guy, give me that guy. That guy works in my system. That guy really doesn't, and this guy will do, and I'll make it work.
And you can trust him in saying that.
But he knows what he's looking for too,
yeah.
And that's such a big thing because you can't spend money on every position. You got to know what you can find value at. You got to know, hey, we can draft a guy, we can get a young guy here, whatever it may be. He was very confident, I think, going into the offseason of what he needed. He was able to look at a defense too. It's pretty amazing that pretty much ran a 4-3 and say, okay, that guy will work in a 3-4. That guy will work in my system, and kind of switch things around and made it work, and I think that's the most impressive thing of all of it.
He has a great track record, but it's funny you talk about that identity on defense. Could the personality of the defense be any more different than Wade Phillips' personality? Because he's just the nice old man next door, right?
You would be surprised if you're seeing him in practice. He doesn't say much, but if he sees something he doesn't like, it's kind of like Exorcist Wade for a second. I remember.
It's usually Reggie Herring.
Usually Reggie.
Evil twin brother.
Yeah, usually it's Reggie doing all the yapping. But I remember one play.
defender gets an interception, and he's holding the ball out here. He's just flapping it around, and Wade just, and he comes up to the, I won't say who it was, and comes up and goes, boom, and he starts like slamming into the ball, and it's like, you hold on, and he's yelling, and then Herring comes up and finishes him off.
the yell.
If you don't yell all the time, when you do it, I would suspect it would make an impression.
That's kind of what Herring's there for, right? Because Wade's always like, oh, shucks, guys. We're just trying to get after the quarterback and tear his guts out.
Kind of a Hank Hill thing.
Yeah. Maybe in a past life he sold propane and propane accessories.
I don't know. In my most recent blog post, I'm having people make offerings to various Texans to, whatever you're happy with. And I provided an offering of a homemade pie. And if I had enough pies for everybody, a whole bunch of people would get it. But I gave it to Wade because I figured Wade would like homemade pie better than.
Blueberry? Or
It was actually apple pecan.
This looks delicious.
Apple pecan
Oh,
pie.
now that sounds
Very
good.
Wow.
Hey, coming up next week, hopefully more brownies, but we also have on Not Your Ordinary Sports Show, we've got the Monday night game is the Chiefs at the Patriots. That doesn't sound too good.
ESPN's
Tyler
thrilled.
Palco era starting in Kansas City, by the way, this week.
Tell you what, Monday night schedule has just been.
Yeah.
Well, no, but they deserved it with some of it. I mean, some of it's just.
Well, it also hurt to have the Colts lose that Manning guy who happens to be pretty good. Hey, we're also going to be joined next week by former Oilers quarterback, a legend here in Houston, who has a new book coming out, Dan Pastorini. His book hitting bookstores later this week. It's called Taking Flack, Life in the Fast Lane. Former Oilers quarterback, also played briefly for the Oakland Raiders. We're also going to be having on our guest panel, I believe he's been a teammate of both Eric's and ND's, former Texans linebacker, and he's played with the Redskins a number of places, Danny Clark.
Recently married Danny Clark.
He just got married a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact. We're looking forward to having Danny on next week. And Houston Texans blogger Kim Davis will be joining us as well. That's at 7:30 next Monday night. Chiefs and Patriots, I'm thinking that's going to be another lopsided affair.
Well, we thought
Chiefs.
Chiefs weren't going to be very good against San Diego.
Yeah, and they beat them. Right.
The thing that I think the Patriots have proved, if you can slow them down on offense a little bit, they're going to give up some points.
Right.
Chiefs can get that running game going, create some turnovers like they did against the Chargers. Could be another exciting game.
I'm thinking Brady's not going to fumble
Where's
a snap with the game on the line.
Where's the game at?
It's in New England.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. My thoughts exactly.
Good luck, Tyler.
Brady, by the way, that was impressive showing against the Jets last night. I thought that was going to be, that game was going to come down to the end, but Brady had a look in his eye from the beginning that he wasn't going to let the Patriots lose their third straight game.
Mm-hmm. Brady wants another ring. He's a competitor. He's not satisfied. I don't think anybody in that organization is satisfied with the success. He wants to be the best. That's one of the things that's most impressive about him. With all the success that he's had, the model wife at home, all the things off the field going for him, he still plays and looks like he's going after it. He's going after his first ring.
He's got, what, 3 rings?
Yes,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. Is it 3?
Is that right?
3, yeah.
Belichick has
it has
3,
to be 3. It's 3. It's 3.
Right. All right, so we'll get a closer look at Tom Brady next week against the Chiefs. Dan Pastorini, Danny Clark, and Kim Davis joining us on Not Your Ordinary Sports Show. We thank all of you for joining us. Thanks to our guest, Dan DeArmond from BMC Software, former NFL veteran ND Kalu, and Texans blogger Steph Stradley. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Monday, 7:30 at thebustv.com. Thanks for joining us.
Not Your Ordinary Sports Show.